Plot, The White Countess, 2005. Heading, Sponsored. But, written by Jono, Shanghai, 1936. Crossroads of the world and into the city of political intrigue comes Sophia, a Russian countess who, with the remains of her family, has been left stateless by the revolution. Forced by her reduced circumstances to support herself and her family as a bar girl and taxi dancer, Sophia forms a relationship with Jackson, a blind former diplomat who opens an elegant bar, The White Countess. Their curious relationship matures, but they are caught up in the fall of the city to the Japanese invaders. Voiceover off.
When you're blind and watching movies, what will you find? A blind superhero whose superpowers are acting like he's not blind. A sighted actor over dramatically touching people's faces. And maybe the whole joke is that they're bumping into different places. A spectacular, macular generation. From tunnel vision to your television. And do they off this movie with audio descriptions? They're movie buffs who know their stuff. You'll be thoroughly entertained. Join Sky and Melissa throughout film history and Citizen White Cane.
Hi, and welcome to Citizen White Cane, the podcast where seeing is believing and not seeing is suspending disbelief. My name is Sky McLeod,
And I'm Melissa Bukta.
and we are talking about the movie The White Countess.
Yay!
Yay.
It was your week to pick the movie this week.
Yeah, so it was interesting seeing it again because I had seen it, when I was like in high school, I think, so it's been a long time.
Well, and it was interesting for me to see it for the first time.
Yes, I would love to know just kind of what your just kind of very basic opinions are.
Oh yes, I can do that.
or I mean, just you can also be more detailed.
Sure. Well, so I mean, when you suggested it, I really wasn't sure because you were like, oh, and there's subtitles, and oh, it's a foreign film,
Which
and
I'm sorry, because I forgot that it didn't actually have that many subtitles at all.
No, it didn't, and I was so happy.
Me too.
When the first scene opens up and the Russian women are speaking English, I was like, hallelujah!
Yeah.
This movie.
I was really glad that it had less subtitles than I remember.
Yeah, it's really cool that they acknowledge the fact that in Shanghai in the 30s, there were a shit ton of languages that were spoken, which was really cool. You have French and Russian, and I'm sure there was, obviously there was English because it's about an American diplomat.
Right.
There was Mandarin Chinese. Right. There's Japanese. That that was really cool.
Yeah, it is really like. That's what is interesting about the movie is there is so many different languages. And it is funny which is why I think in my head I thought it had a lot more subtitles than it did, because it is surprising how they got so many, because sometimes like the fact that the Russian characters were all speaking English to each other is like almost like why
Oh no, I thought that too. I was like, why not just have them speak Russian? And then I was like, oh yeah, you can't read subtitles, shut up and watch the movie.
Right, I thought the same thing. I'd be like, I'm thankful, but this also is not realistic, because in China would they all be speaking English to each other?
Yeah, I mean, she does sing to her daughter in Russian, which was nice. And you do get to hear at the club, there are Russian singers. At first I couldn't figure out if it was Russian or Chinese, but it's definitely Russian. It sounds like Russian.
Because they have a few, and it so I don't know which copy or how you want. Did you watch it on DVD?
I did. I rented it from the library.
So did it have like subtitles because the copy I watched, it was just like on Amazon, and it was very odd in that you could turn on English subtitles or you could turn off the English subtitles, but the English subtitles were literally just like closed captions, but then they would translate anytime someone was speaking in a different language into English, so it's very weird.
Oh, interesting. No, my copy was you only heard what they wanted you to hear when they wanted you to hear it.
Like you only saw the subtitles.
Right. So, okay, so she, at the beginning of the movie, our Russian Countess, Sophia, she's on the train and she's talking to the Frenchman. That was all subtitled. So conversations like that were subtitled, but any of the like you hear people in the streets or like non sequiturs.
Right, some of them are like Japanese.
Right, or the people at the club, like the Chinese opera singer, like you don't hear.
Right.
You don't get to, like, it's just, which I like. I mean, personally,
Yeah.
I like listening to music that is not in
don't need
English.
to know.
So
It's-
I don't need to know. It
yeah.
just sounds pretty. It would. I mean, yeah,
Right.
I should get off my ass and do research and figure out what they're actually saying. But honestly, it just sounds pretty.
That's fine, I think. I'm not a very lyrically, I like the sound of lyrics in a song, but I don't need to even, because there's English songs that I like that have the lyrics don't really make any sense if you really look at them, and I still can enjoy it. Like, so, if I can enjoy English songs that don't actually make sense, I can enjoy songs where I don't understand the language.
But to answer your question, to actually answer your question,
Right.
I really liked this. I was a little worried because when I watched the trailer, it was like a romantic epic, and I was like, oh no, I just don't. I'm not a very romantic person. I just don't go in for all that stuff, and having to watch people do it in a movie is just like, as in fall in love, like not just like sex. Like sex doesn't bother me. I really don't care, but like to watch that whole process, I'm bored. I'm so bored. However, there is a romance there, and at one point it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere, but still
It does, yeah.
it really does. But there was enough other stuff happening, and these characters were also not two-dimensional. It wasn't like, they met at a cafe and they have a misunderstanding, because now I thought that's what this was going to be, because he talks to her. So Ralph Fiennes is the main character. He's blind in this film,
Right.
and Natasha, I can't remember her last name.
Redgrave?
No, she's not a Redgrave. They're both Redgraves are in this, though. Well, anyway, Sophia and Mr. Jackson are having this conversation in the the Qingling, which I think I was like, wow, is that racist? I don't know. Again, I don't speak Chinese, so I don't know. But they met in this club where she's working as a call girl and or a prostitute, basically.
Right,
And-
like she's a good dancer.
Right, but she's also there if
also
you want to have
sometimes.
conversations.
Right.
But she'll also sleep with you if that's what you want.
Right.
Yeah. So they're having this conversation, and he overhears someone addressing her, another Russian immigrant addressing her as Countess Sophia, because that's who she is. She's literally a fallen Russian countess.
Right.
Basically. And then at first I thought, oh my God, what if she's not and he thinks she is, and then we have to go through this whole charang, and then she has to tell him I'm not a countess, and luckily none of that, and then I can't love you if you're not a countess. No, like none of that happened. She actually is a countess. Thank God we don't have to go through that cliche.
Yeah.
So there was none of that. So I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, the acting is fantastic. I mean, the acting is great. The story is really engaging. I don't know much about Shanghai in the 30s, and I was like, wow, this is super cool. I would like to go here and visit this place.
Yeah. Well, and it's also filmed entirely on location in Shanghai.
Yes,
which is cool.
I did notice that in the opening credits. It was a partnership between BBC Films and the Chinese, what they call their film studio. And I thought, oh, that's actually quite interesting. But because of that was really cool, because everything was authentic. All the characters felt authentic. The setting felt authentic because it was authentic.
Right. Though, as someone who's been to Shanghai more recently, probably actually not a little bit after the movie was filmed, but kind of, maybe like within 3 years of this movie being filmed, there is so much construction and like skyscrapers. It is one of the most like modern cities, so it is like such a feat that they were able to make Shanghai look like it was in the 30s. Like it makes more sense to me that like Her was filmed in Shanghai, because that's like, it's easier to make Shanghai the future than it is to make it the past, even the past of Shanghai.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. They must have filmed in they must have either built a lot of sets or filmed in such a way that like you just don't see.
Right. I think
I
think mostly they filmed like at certain angles, but that is like a feat of
because there's a scene where they're at the public gardens, and it's obviously it's gorgeous, and I'm like, that's still got to be there, right? Like
right.
They wouldn't tear those. You'd think there'd be more of them.
Yeah. It's really an interesting but it doesn't feel like you're watching something that it feels genuine to the time period. It doesn't, I'm like watching it, I wasn't like super aware of how, I mean, I was just thinking, wow, this is impressive because of like thinking about how I was like, it's impressive this wasn't just a studio, like on a studio, like lot, because it is very like the in the frame, and you really do have it looks like period piece, which is hard to do.
Yeah, and also you had me at merchandise film.
Right.
Like, oh, it's a merchandise film. Okay, sign me up.
This was the final film that Ishmael Merchant, he produced it, and then I think he died around the time that it was being released.
Wow.
So this would have been so I think this was technically the last movie they worked together on because it was the final film that he was alive during the making of, and I think he has a producer credit, but then it's like officially directed just by Ivory.
You're correct. I remember seeing that in the credits. Yeah, well, you know, and it's just, I don't know how to say this without sounding white, because it's like Merchant Ivory films. It's just a good film. They're just. I've seen my fair share of Merchant Ivory films. You know, they're just really good films. They're just really well done. Like, I don't feel like it was a waste of time. I don't feel like it dragged. You know, like it just, I was just really content to be in this world,
right,
with all of these characters, you know.
Yeah, it is very like, feels like you're kind of entering a world, which is thematically kind of what the movie is about. And to talk more about like the specifics of the plot of the movie, you basically have, it takes place after the Treaty of Versailles like is signed. So when they're like a time period where China is kind of in like a limbo of being like upset about the treaty, which this is from my Googling before we started the podcast, so very informed. But like there's kind of like tension that's building because of like what Japan like was able to get in, and China feeling kind of left behind by the process of signing the Treaty of Versailles after World War I. And then like it takes place in this time period where there's like technically no war or anything going on, but it's like as tensions are building between China and Japan, and as the Communist Party is like kind of developing and in China, like it kind of starts before that process. It's the movie takes place during the rise of the party being a thing.
I was a little worried about like when I saw the credit for the Chinese, I'm gonna say film board, but I know that's not them, that's the BBC British Film Board, but anyway, right, the Chinese Film Authority. I was a little worried because I was like, ooh, you know, how are they gonna are they gonna let them tell the story that they want to tell? Because like, yeah,
because this was 2006, right, I believe is the year it came out, which is, I mean, I don't know if it was as extreme now, like the Chinese market, like I don't, but yes,
well, to let them tell the story in a sense that if they put China in a bad light, right. would they? But you know, actually, just saying that statement, I realized, yes, they let them tell the story the way they want to do it because they put the Japanese in a bad light.
Right, exactly. It is
they're the quote unquote villains. There isn't really a bad guy, a villain in this movie. It's kind of just history,
right.
But the Japanese basically invade Shanghai.
Yeah, and it kind of is. It all takes place in Shanghai, and so you kind of like, it's really like these building tensions are in the backdrop of the entire movie, but weirdly kind of like it's almost like a mood more than it is like the actual specifics of it, which I think obviously is an intentional choice. I was unsure what to think about how we're following white characters. And really, there's not any, like, not even, like, really any of the Asian characters play, like, some of them play important roles in the plot, but
Yeah,
it
I
is
mean,
primarily about two white people.
Yes. Well, because you have, Mr. Mashido, who is the Japanese character, the Japanese
Right.
man that Jackson befriends. What I kind of laughed about was you have Ralph Fiennes, who's an amazing actor, who's playing this American diplomat, and I was like, "Where's Ralph Fiennes?" Like, because I'm listening for his voice, and I'm like, "Where is he? Isn't he in this movie?" And then it dawned on me, I was like, "Oh my God, that's him. He's just doing an American accent."
Oh,
which
yeah.
It's
not bad.
It's not bad. It's there. He definitely comes out in a couple of places though, and I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
But as far as American accents go, I mean, he could have done a whole lot worse. But after a while, you just know
Right.
when it's someone who's trying to do an American accent.
It's
Yeah.
true, because sometimes I kind of got confused on the plot, because I did keep thinking, like, he's from England, right? Like,
Yeah,
and so
he's
I
British.
kept, like,
Yeah,
thinking he
yeah.
was British, and then that kind
Yeah.
of made me confused by the plot, because he's not a British character, and I think actually for the first half of the movie I was confused, that it wasn't until they had made it very clear, because I kept thinking he was, like, a British diplomat, but then, like, later on, I think they start talking about the president, and I'm like, oh, president. So
Well,
he's not
because
British.
because when you no, because when you meet him, he's at that meeting with his firm in the beginning of the film, and they're like low key gonna fire him or whatever, but
Right.
they're a bunch of British guys,
Right.
And so I'm like,
it's very
why
confusing.
is he talking with an American accent? But yeah, no, he's
But
an American.
right, which also, like, I'm not really sure why the plot needed him to be like, historically, I don't know why he needed to be American,
Yeah, I
given
don't-
that
I
the
don't
British and the
understand that
American
either.
would have been allied in there. Because he's a diplomat, so I mean they were all on the same team
Right,
at
well,
that
and
point.
then you
but-
cast Ralph Fiennes. I'm just like, well,
It's very
why?
confusing.
Like, if you need an American, why
You
not
can-
cast an?
Well, it's because he's blind and he's playing a blind character.
True.
Joking, because
Yeah.
he's not actually blind.
No.
But it does
Yeah,
lead us to.
Oh yeah, that's the whole reason why we're talking about this movie.
Right.
Ralph Fiennes is a blind character, and he is what I would say is he is
realistic.
realistic, yes, but he is the secondary main character, because obviously Sophia is the main character.
Well, because it's
But-
named after her character. But he is,
Right.
in a way, like, I feel like he is kind of the protagonist in that. Which I like about the movie is really using him as a way to see through, like, he is kind of our, what's the right word? Like, he is our...
The audience surrogate.
Yes, that's exactly the right term. He's the audience surrogate, which I feel like is really, when we saw City Lights, that was something I thought about a lot, of just how much, like, the movie wasn't even wanting us to, like, think about what the blind character's perspective was. And so I really liked that the movie was really using his character as the audience surrogate, which doesn't happen very often with the blind character, because I think that movies are just so geared towards sighted people that the idea of, like, having a blind character be the surrogate is, like, doesn't really make sense. So I really like that, because that's so uncommon.
Also, I felt absolutely no pity for this character.
Yes.
Which was great.
Yeah, it was so nice that he, like, wasn't spending the entire movie, like, because he does get into an accident, which I feel like that gives, like, he loses his sight in an accident. And so because of them, I feel like you could kind of even have more leeway of him feeling like it's blindness, because when you're born with blindness, no person born with blindness is really, like, thinking about wanting to see. There's just no reason to.
Right. No, exactly. You don't...
Other than it would be more convenient because people wouldn't, like, be, like, you could actually exist in a sighted world a little easier, but that's...
Yeah, well, I
but
mean,
there's
when
no
if
actual-
you've never had sight, like, your brain is literally
you
wired
couldn't.
differently.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah.
Right. Whereas if you lose it as an adult, because he, like, loses it during an accident, and he has his daughter with him, which is an important part of the plot, because his daughter dies in the same accident where he loses his vision, so he was, at that point old enough to be a father, so obviously had spent his whole life growing up as a sighted person. So I feel like that gives you more leeway to have him being like, I wish I could have my vision back. And he doesn't. It's just like, there's no point where he's like, oh, I want to see. Like, he's just such a competent blind person. And it feels much more accurate in that he has the cane.
Yes, he has a cane and he's
He
using
uses
it
it
correctly.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And then he also doesn't use it a few times in like where it makes sense. Like because he has a club, so the beginning of the movie, like basically the first act is him kind of devising this idea of wanting to put together a club, and kind of what his ideal club would be, what the bouncers would be like, and what, the performances and the White Countess.
Well, he meets Sophia, the White Countess,
Yes.
at this other club, and immediately falls in love is not what I want to use, because I didn't feel like it was love.
Yeah.
But immediately becomes infatuated with, which is something really cool, because he's never, obviously he's blind, so he's never seen her.
Right. Yeah.
I just haven't seen that a lot. It's really cool to watch a friendship, because they do start out as friends, which kind of turns into out of left field, turns into a romance.
Yeah.
But still, for me as someone who's blind, it's really awesome and fun and inspiring to watch. I know Ralph Fiennes isn't blind, but it's really fun to watch a blind character have that experience.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like that is a common thing to have a blind or a disabled character in general be desexualized too.
Yes. Yeah, and even though this is a Merchant Ivory movie, so there's no sex in it,
Yeah.
Which is fine. There's like one passionate kiss. That's it.
Yes.
That's all you get.
It is a weird. I feel like the third act definitely, especially like kind of, I think there's some really good parts in the third act, and then I think the kind of the way that the romance happens, like that it is so out of left field. I don't feel like that really makes sense.
Right, well,
Like it
basically,
feels awkward.
Yeah, well, basically they were like business partners, because he wants her to be his muse, basically his centerpiece. And
Right.
he calls the club the White Countess because it's about her, and she works there, so she's an escort, but she doesn't have to sleep with nobody no more.
Right.
And
oh yeah, this movie is like a view on sex work is.
oh yeah,
Oh my god! I mean, I don't think the movie. I think the movie is like making characters that have very problematic perspectives, and I don't think the movie is in any way endorsing those perspectives. But I bet I think they probably were time specific, like
Well,
that was
yes.
accurate to the time
yes,
period.
because if you think about it, her whole family. So it's they all live in this flat together.
Right.
So it's Sophia, it's her daughter Katya, it's Krishna. I'm not sure how Krishna is related to Sophia. I didn't catch that. And then their mother.
I think. I feel like, are they like in siblings in law or something somehow?
like that. Because
they're like not blood related. I don't think.
something like that.
I don't know.
Because here's the thing, they're all royalty, basically.
Yeah.
Sophia is the countess, and there's a princess and a prince. Uncle Peter, I think, is the prince's name, and I can't remember the princess's name. So they're all royalty. So they literally have come from splendor on high. They've had everything handed to them, and then they were basically ousted, and
Right.
And are taking refuge in Shanghai, and now they've been reduced to
Doing sex work.
work.
Except for it is like this kind of dynamic of what is the White Countess? What is her actual character name?
Sophia.
Sophia.
I can't remember her last name and middle name, but it's great. But I can't remember. That's her name is Sophia.
That's it. Yeah. So Sophia does like both escorting, sex work, kind of like dancing, and it is completely by the rest of the family like seen as very shameful and like something that she should be hiding from her daughter, and something that she should be like basically saying this is so bad and this is horrible, you wouldn't want your daughter to see this or to grow up and be like this, but then also like we're depending on you to make the money.
Exactly. It's like don't just like go lock yourself in your room when you get ready and don't touch your daughter and don't talk to your daughter when you but you better bring home that money.
Right, and we're like depending on you for this because no one else is working, which is just like, I mean, I like that the movie obviously is like showing how stupid that, like, and how fucked up and unfair that perspective is. And I also don't think it's like, and like, honestly, given how horribly oppressive like the world is towards sex workers now, like, and just how, we have not come honestly, the world is not all that different from from the movie, and this is in the 30s, so it is, and I guess 20s and 30s, so it probably is completely historically accurate that they would be like that, but it is
our blind diplomat, Mr. Jackson, Todd,
yes.
I believe is his first name, but everyone just calls him Mr. Jackson.
This is good, you're remembering all the names. I'm like, I literally don't remember a single person's name, but
that's
yes.
Okay. I have to, in order to become attached to a character, I have to know their name. So
it's like the Bechdel
I always know. Yeah, I have to know their name. If I don't know their name, I don't care about them.
Oh, City Lights must have really.
It was awful.
Made it hard.
I knew the tramp and I knew the blind girl, and I'm just like, but they don't have names.
Yeah, no one in silent movies has names.
No, you know what? Once is one of my favorite movies, and the main characters in Once don't have names either. In the credits, they're literally listed as guy and girl. I'm just like, why? But I love them. I love Once. Anyway,
sorry.
Yeah, no, but I like the fact that he meets her at the club and he becomes infatuated with her. But it's when you take the sight out of everything, it's not like he sees her from across the smoky room and she's beautiful, and it's all of the physical, like, attractive, like, all that stuff is gone. You don't have. You have to physically talk to somebody, right. Or he falls in love with her mind, with her personality, with
right,
a little bit with who she was, I think. I mean, because she's Countess,
Right. Well, and it's and the first time that they meet each other, because I don't think we've talked about that yet, is he is in Todd, is the diplomat.
That feels so weird to call him
Mr.
Todd.
Jackson.
Mr. Jackson. Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes, yeah, blind guy. He is in the original club that she works in before he makes his own club, and he is sitting there, just kind of like not watching the show, but just being there while people are dancing. And I think he's going up to leave, and we kind of like while he's going to leave, it's intercut with these kind of like two like ruffians. I don't know exactly what their deal is.
I totally missed this, and because she comes up to him and is like, "Hey, you should leave with me." And he's like, "I don't want, I don't need your services." Da da da. And she's like, "No, you don't understand. There's two thugs back there who are gonna beat you up and take your shoes."
Right. Because he's a blind person.
And he not only that, but because he was wearing nice clothes. He had nice shoes.
Right.
He's got money.
Right. Which is definitely part of the kind of character.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's a diplomat. But he's not a snob. Like, he's not an asshole.
Right.
But he's got money.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of it is kind of him being a disabled person but having the financial ability so it creates
no, seriously, I was totally thinking about that because there's a scene where he's getting ready to go out and his man Lou, his chauffeur, is helping him like put his tie on and like get him, put his jacket on, whatever, hands him his hat, and I had a thought. I was like, obviously he's got money, obviously, right. And he can afford to be disabled.
Yeah.
But what about the people in Shanghai? Like, what if he was blind and had, like, shit?
Yeah,
like
no.
had no money.
He really has like the most privilege of a disabled person at that time period, because he is like a rich white person, diplomat, so of a like, political standing that's kind of in check. Like, there is really just blindness is the only thing that makes him not have privilege. Like, he just has all the privilege outside of being blind, and so it definitely.
Well, and I don't think it's a case that he doesn't have any privilege. He has privilege. He goes to all the clubs that he wants to go to. He doesn't get thrown out of any of them. He talks to the people he wants to talk to.
Right. Well, and I think that's part of why when they do have, like, when he does run into something that is like some blindness related thing where he's being discriminated against, like, I think that's in some ways it kind of puts a finer point on it, because it's like this sense of like, you have all the privilege and it's literally, there's no other explanation on why this would be happening other than that you're blind.
Well, yeah,
because it is like direct
the only
discrimination.
the only time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the only time I remember him being openly discriminated against is when Sophia tries to dance with him at the club that she works at. The owner comes, you can't dance with him here. And I'm like, is he yelling at her or is he yelling at him? He's yelling at him, like,
for being blind
and on the dance floor. Like, you can't do that here. And in so many words, Sophia basically tells him to fuck off.
Right.
And rightly so. But like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the only.
Well, that, and also the other scene with them trying to with the when they meet with the guys that are like trying to steal shoes.
Oh, yes, and that, yeah.
Because I think that part of that is that he has expensive shoes, but the blindness is definitely.
Well, he was an easy target.
Right. Because it's like the fact that Sophia was able to like redirect was because she had vision. So if he had the vision, then he would have been able to do that theoretically.
Yeah, no, I never thought that it was about her coming in and need this powerful need to save him.
Right, but I think that it is implied that, not in like a problematic way, but just that the fact that she could see that dynamic was, because I think that is like a fair representation of what blindness is there are times where you are in like more danger just because you don't have the ability to see something, and it's not, and if someone kind of can help you through that, it doesn't feel, it's not like patronizing, like it does feel like, okay, thank you for saving me from a situation where I could get hurt if I just didn't even, if I had no ability to know I was in that situation to begin with. Because like crossing a street, I mean, you're like, you're crossing a street, so if someone's like, hey, can I help you, then you can say yes, like that's the correct way to do it, as opposed to like just pushing you, grabbing you or
I've
whatever.
had both experiences happen to me.
Oh my gosh.
The only time I've actually asked somebody to cross, like for physical help crossing a street, was when I was in New York.
Oh yeah.
And I had to cross.
Well, don't go to Shanghai. That's there's
no.
really scary streets.
Oh, good. That's exciting. No, I was in Times Square, and then I wanted to cross from Central Park to the Natural History Museum, and I asked for help, and people were really nice.
Right.
Like, I walked across with tourists and with a couple of ladies. I mean, people were super nice, and I'm just like, you don't need to touch me, you don't need to hold on to you, but I would prefer to cross the street with a sighted person.
Yeah, just like someone who knows when is a good time to cross the street is fair. And I think that's why, for me, I just like to kind of look, because I have with the peripheral vision, I can see movement, and so that really does help me see where the cars are, and I'm very careful about crossing the street. But in Portland, it's nice because the streets are so small, and so I can cross streets here by myself. But I really prefer when people ask me, can I help? Because then I can always say no, because half the time I would say no, and or maybe more than half, but a lot of times you kind of just, people aggressively help you. I've had people yell at me, be like, you gotta cross now, and I'd be like, I know, why are you, and I've been in danger because they were yelling at me, and I was like, oh, okay, and ran across the street, and the car was coming, and I was like, I would have never made this you just put me in harm's way, and I didn't ask for your help at all. I was just scared because you're yelling at me.
My go-to in that situation is usually, you can yell at me all you want, you don't know.
Right.
I don't care, and you don't know.
Which is very good to have that state of mind.
I'm going to cross the street when I want to cross the street, and
yes,
fuck you. Whatever, dude. I'm really sorry that I'm apparently putting such a damper on your day. But I'm going to do it.
For just like being confident. But yeah, so that is the difference between helping people helpfully.
Helping, now you know.
Yeah, now you know.
Don't yell at us when we cross the street.
Any sighted people listening, this is so important. Yeah, we could probably at some point, instead of ads, we could just do like a 15-minute like PSA on exactly what is the proper etiquette with blind people.
How to treat us in public.
And,
yeah,
especially crossing the street is when you really have a lot of it's exhausting.
This is the most brilliant segue ever.
Ooh.
Speaking of etiquette,
yes.
They meet, our diplomat and our countess, they meet at the club, and she realizes that he's blind because he's got the cane, and oh god, that so many points that I want to bring up. Anyway, yes, so many good, so much good stuff to talk about. So they introduce themselves to each other, and she asks if he wants to touch her face. First of all, points to her for asking and not like grabbing his hands and being like, I'm the Countess Sophia, touch face. She didn't do that. And also, when she asked that, I audibly went, no. And so did he, like 2 seconds later. And I was like, oh, thank
I like
God.
that. Though it did bum me out that they ended with him doing it.
No. Honestly,
like
I felt like that moment was earned because it was an intimate act.
Yeah.
It was a consensual, intimate act between the two of them.
I think I would have liked it more if he didn't, that didn't mean that because he was like, oh, you're so beautiful. It's like, you can't, that doesn't, what?
No, I mean, I get that, but
because I think touching someone's face could definitely be an intimate act.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that it wasn't like synonymous with, because you can. I mean, I find certain people's voices very attractive.
Right. I don't think it was he finally wanted to touch her face because he wanted to see how beautiful she was. For me, I focused on the act of touch itself.
Right.
He wanted to touch her. Also, from a writing standpoint, it's a callback to the beginning.
I think that I just hate the trope of like wanting to touch someone's face to see them, and so that is like I think what bothered me is that it's seen as something that blind people would give into, whereas before that point you could kind of argue that blind people don't think that it's relevant to touch someone's face. I think that touching can definitely be, I think it can be its own kind of intimate act of blindness, but the fact that you would see someone through touching their face doesn't make any sense, because it is like a different sensory information that has its own, carries its own relevance,
right. Obviously he's not Daredevil. He's not making a map of sonic map of her face, and just by feeling her nose and her cheeks and her whatever, right. he's not gonna quote unquote know what she, air quotes, know what she looks like. But I don't think that was the point. It was the physical act of touching, because had they touched in that way before, like, because she doesn't really sight guide him because he's got his cane, and except for the episode at his club with the Frenchman where she physically leads him away, I don't think they touch a lot. I
think they also because they dance before that too.
They did. They danced once at the old club.
Yeah, there's a few times where they touch, but definitely not in like more of an intimate way.
Right, it's friendly touching or
just kind of like needed. In the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that I wish that it was more of that there wasn't that comparison to touching and seeing, because I think that there is like someone being quote unquote beautiful in the way that the movie is trying to invoke is so visual. Like, it is like symmetry and the proportions, like that is something that only is appealing in vision, and if you don't have vision is just not what you care about. It's like just not how you find someone attractive. Like, right. I think you can find someone's voice attractive, you can find like the way someone speaks attractive, like those are equally kind of like superficial things that you can find attractive as a blind person.
Yeah. I think I'm
even someone's smell.
Sure. No, I think I was more willing to let this slide.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I think the moment was earned, personally, and that's that is my 2 cents. And no, you shouldn't need to physically touch someone to figure out that they are beautiful. But I don't think he fell in love with her because she was physically beautiful.
Well, and the movie is definitely also saying that. I feel like it's like he doesn't need to see her and see that she's conventionally attractive. That and I think it kind of sees blindness as a way of seeing past more superficial stuff, which I don't know. I mean, even if it's a cliche, it's probably the least damaging cliche out there about blindness.
It is such a cliche, though.
It is very cliche, but at least it's not offensive.
Whenever I see someone do that in a movie, or whenever people talk about it, I think of the have you seen the Arrested Development episodes, the Maggie Lizer arc?
Yeah.
When Michael and Julie Louis-Dreyfus, when they introduce themselves in the bar, she immediately grabs his face. That is how blind people say hello, is we see each other on the street and just immediately grab on each other's face.
It's just
you're so cute. That means nothing.
It says so. Oh gosh, and it's funny because it's only sighted people that just randomly grab blind people without them asking, not the other way around.
I've known my fair share of blind people. I have not touched anybody's face
without, and I don't know. It is 2020, but you gotta ask people before you touch them.
I mean, no offense, but I don't want your dirty hands on my face.
It is really, that is not sanitary.
No.
I mean, because I always think about this, when I get into a new relationship with someone, I always get sick, very quickly. You just, you get a cold or something because you're, near someone else's germs. I feel
your body has to adjust.
Exactly. And I feel like if you were just, touching people all the time like that, you would just be so sick all the time because everyone has their own, microbiome and, all these different germs that are going to, that you need to take some time for your body to get used to.
If I went up to a sighted person, even if they were my friend, if I went up to a friend and immediately just, tried to grab their face, do you really think they would stand for that?
I mean, no one. It's it's hard enough having a social life with a kid and people making assumptions. You don't need to do something weird and aggressive and because I really do I think it's something that I think about a lot when we the more we get into a consent culture, and I think that is such an important thing, but I get really bummed out when it becomes okay, well, no one ever touches anyone ever. Because I do think to some extent, that is a way, I do think that, touching is a form of, even, different kinds of intimacy, even friend intimacy of, touching someone, it feels very, it's also kind of saying I'm here,
right?
And it's something I really like, and I like when people do that.
Well, and a friend sent me an article a while ago, but it was basically, studies have shown that literally humans need touch.
Yeah,
we need to be
Harlow
touched.
And
we need to be
monkeys.
hugged. We need to be exactly, exactly. We just and we're not necessarily talking about intimate sexual touching, just the act of holding someone's hand, of getting a hug from somebody, of sitting on the couch, next to a friend or whatever.
Yeah, that's
just
nice.
Touch. I'm personally as a blind person, touching is an extremely intimate act. I don't mind. For me, I don't mind being touched. That's fine. But I've gone over this with many improvers, but I have a really hard time initiating touch.
I'm the exact same way. That's funny. That's literally what I will always say in improv too. Is that I love when people will touch me in a scene, and I pretty much have never, because I think part of it is in improv, you to say you're okay with someone touching you is like you visually do that. And so like I cannot pick up if someone is visually saying it's okay for you to touch, because there is kind of like a nonverbal communication you can make about that.
Right.
And
Eye
I
contact,
just don't.
head nod, you know, nothing that we're going to pick up.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, if you touch me, then also maybe I'm more likely to think it's okay for me to touch you. So
Right.
be aware of that. But like,
right. I mean, and, you know, and I've really tried to be better, like to be more open in that aspect. Like I will touch people's shoulders, or, you know, maybe grab their hand or whatever, you know, but you know, the people that I do improv with, like, they know, like, I don't care. Like, touch me, kiss me, pull me, push me, do whatever
Right.
you want. I don't care. But I'm probably not going to do it to you.
Right. It is interesting. And I mean, I think that I want the discussion around consent to have more. I think it's just beginning, and it's a great thing to have. And I just don't want us to lose asking, because I think sometimes people are like, okay, well, people don't want to be touched without being asked, but then they forget it's like without being asked, and like just people don't want to be touched ever, and I'm just never going to do it. I'm never going to see if they want me to do it, and I'm just not going to do it at all.
Well, that's why you check in before
Right.
every improv show and play and rehearsal and ask, what are you comfortable with
That would be
today?
a nice thing, like how people more and more like have pronouns in your emails, have pronouns when you say your name. Like that should be a good thing of like making that more normalized, of like saying what you're like physical.
yeah.
Because also like you can tie that into like what are your needs for accessibility. Like, you know, how is maybe because of a disability, how are you not able to do something, but that can also involve like what are you comfortable with touching, why, like, you know, that can be part of that discussion too, and that would be helpful.
Well, and it's a speech that and it's a speech that I'm sure you're used to giving, because it's a speech that I give all the time when you do a play or an improv or, you know, something theatrical. Like you have to, or you're in a class, you have to give the speech.
Right. Yes.
Do
you want to do each yours? No.
Oh my god. Well, fuck it. I mean,
Then we could
you
just
can edit
like,
out whatever you
listen
want.
to this podcast. Go to
Yeah, right.
52 minutes.
Oh
in.
my
No.
god. Yeah. No, let's see the speech. Actually, I just had to give it recently at the play thing that I told you about.
Yeah.
So
Off mic, but yes.
yes, off mic. Yes, I'm in a play. Yeah. Anyway, without naming like any names or anything, but yeah. So we gathered for warm ups, and we were all in this giant circle because it's a play festival. So there's like 8 different plays.
Oh no.
And there's like 3 people in each play. So there's like 50 of us. I mean, there's a fuck ton of people.
I hate that so much.
Yep. So we get in the circle. They do their announcements about like where this stage is, this here, and this is the door you need to exit through, and da 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 da. And you know, does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever? So inevitably,
Oh, you have to raise your hand.
I raise my hand. Yep. And I'm like, I think that this is what I said. I said, hi. You are working with someone who is legally blind. This means I don't have any peripheral vision. I don't have any depth perception. Because of the makeup I am wearing for the play, I'm not wearing my glasses.
Oh, no.
I can see somewhat, but everything is going to be extremely blurry.
Yeah.
Do with that information what you will. It was kind of a truncated version of the speech.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, literally right after I gave the fucking speech, we played Zip Zap Zop with 50 people. And I just kind of stood there. And I'm just like, you didn't hear a goddamn word I said, did you? I feel so included right now.
I have so much trouble with, I'm just like, we should never have more than 10 people in a circle. I want to learn everyone's names, but I'm not going to learn it if you're that far away from me. So like, I appreciate that it is hard to accommodate it if you are going to be working with a big group of people. Like, I don't have a very good solution for it, but I think there's also like, to some extent, you have to limit what can be gleaned. Like, if you just go around, do names and pronouns, and then also like, it's something that I have recently will not always have the place to talk about, but I think I'll just say what will happen is when it comes up, I'll mention it. But I think that part of it is just having that confidence of saying, like, this is a good thing. Get on board with this.
Well, and
this makes me a better improviser.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and there are so many other warm-ups that we could have played that are accessible, that would have been accessible to me.
Yes.
Like, you can play the clap game. You can play Pass the Sound. You can play Zoom. Well, Zoom Shorts for Viviana would have been harder.
No,
never mind. No.
So
No, but you can,
very
you know,
emotions.
yes. Yeah. But you know, there are, of course, obviously, I can't come up with like 50 off the top of my head, but
most games are accessible. Honestly, I think there's like a handful that I struggle with a lot. And do you do the thing where you'll just be like, hey, I don't know if I can access this right? Like, because I sometimes don't feel like I'm able to do it because I don't feel like it's an environment where I can do it.
When I know people and if it was a smaller group, I probably would have made more of a stink about it and been like, you know, this game is not, I don't feel included right now. But it was 50 people. We had a full day of dress tech ahead of us, and I just didn't really feel like making waves.
No, that's,
which is
I think
stupid, but
no, it's not stupid, and I think I would have done the exact same thing, because I think you're totally right with, like, I will do it when it's a smaller group and or when it's people I know better, because sometimes, like, I'll be in a big group and I know a decent amount of the people, and so I can easily just be like, it's me, and then they'll be like, oh right, it's Sky. You know, but it's like, if it is a big group, and especially if it's like also not a lot of people I know, then I am much less likely to say anything.
And there are ways that I've adapted Zip Zap Zop. I mean, it's as simple as, if you're going to do anything to me and you are across the room, you have got to say my name before you do it.
Yeah, that's one of the ones
like,
I do.
I'm cued in and I'm like, okay, I'm listening, I'm looking, and I'm listening for my name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can do that. That works.
Sometimes I'll just be like, this is a good practice of, like, I am much less likely to see you, so this is a good practice of being very intentional and, like, trying to even adapt how you play this game to suit me in the moment. Like, I kind of give it as a challenge for other people. I'm like, I'm going to keep you on it. Like, I'm going to make it harder for you, but it means that you have to play this game better.
Yeah. Well, and it's just... It's hard because, you know, like we were talking about, theater is the arts in general are incredibly visual. Like, it's about what you see, and so a lot of people have never had to, or don't want to, or
accommodate,
have thought about accommodating.
Right.
Accommodating anybody. And
I think that is the one nice thing about improv, is you literally have to, it's just all about accommodation. Like, you accommodate all the able people too. Like, everyone has to accommodate each other. It doesn't work. And so I think that's what's so great about it, is it just built into the thing.
Improv is yes and.
Yeah.
Hi, I want to play. Yes, and, you know. Yeah. So, well, yeah, I mean, I've never felt non-included or discriminated against, or, you know, anything like that when it comes to improv.
Right, because it's
never.
like, because there's a lot about setting people up to do well, and so, like, part of that is, like, you can set up sighted people to do well, so it looks really shitty if they're, like, you know, not accommodating you know, like, it kind of makes it so that when you're not accommodated, it's because the other person's being a bad improviser. And so it's really nice, because I feel like a lot of times it falls on you. Like, if you're not being accommodated so much of the time, it's just like, well, you're not doing the right stuff. Like, it makes it seem like you're doing something wrong. Like, and so you start thinking, like, am I doing this wrong? Because, like, other people can do this. I can't. I know it really has to do with my blindness, but still, like, no one's helping. So maybe I am the problem, you know, like, it's really hard not to kind of fall down that rabbit hole.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened on Sunday, and I literally had to be like, okay, stop. Like, you've been in this situation before. It's a group warm up. Fuck the group warm up.
Yeah.
You know, I can either go warm up myself, or we all, my play, like our actors and my director, we warmed up on our own anyway.
Yeah. So then,
you know, so, and I'm just like, okay. And by the time the first play had done their tech and run through, I was fine. Like I was fine, but I'm just like, it hurts a little bit. I can't say it doesn't hurt. It's a little bit of a slap in the face. Like I just spent 3 minutes telling you about myself, and the fact that I can't see like 3 feet in front of my face, and okay, let's play this warm up.
It is really true that like that is such a big thing of like when you have vocalized that you can't do something, when the kind of group mentality is like, okay, well, we like this one, like then you instantly are like, okay, so I'm not welcome here.
No, exactly. And I know deep down in my soul, like that is not at all what they were going for. What
right,
people wanted,
but it's but it's understandable also that you feel that way. Like it is like a general, like humans are so sensitive to like feeling left out, and that is just another way that disabled people can instantly feel left out, is if they vocalize what they need and then it's just completely ignored, or like the fact that other people want a different thing is like, it's like, well, okay, but there's more people who want to do this. It's like, okay, well, I can't even participate though. So like that should matter more than preference.
Yes, no, and it's like the fucking have you ever played the cup game?
I refuse. I think it's one of the ones I'm like, no.
Sure I know you would. So you're in a circle and you have a paper cup or a red Solo cup or whatever, and the object is to hit the cup and keep it from hitting the ground. Good fucking luck.
So you're just supposed to...
You hit the cup to each other.
Like, it's just kind of like one of those beach ball things.
Yeah, you like keep away. But instead of doing it with a round...
so unaerodynamic.
Yes, I know. I think that's the whole point, is like you really have to work at it. But instead of doing it with like a round object or a bright colored object or a big object, we do it with a red Solo cup.
I love things where it's like, can you see? We're gonna get good at being visually capable. It's like, oh, awesome.
Well, and it's like the way so I have no hand-eye coordination. It's gone.
Yeah,
I just don't have it.
I don't.
So I will, and I'm trying to, because people are like, we hit it right to you, and I'm like, how can I explain? They meant well. Like, they really wanted me to be included. Like, so they would literally do everything in their power to hit it to me, and it's literally like it's like playing tennis. Like, I see the tennis ball. I know I am supposed to hit the tennis ball.
But that doesn't...
But the messages are not happening at the same time.
You don't... Because it takes too long to process the visual information.
I have to process that a tennis ball is coming towards my face.
And then it's already gone.
And
which is why I have the reaction anytime I'm doing any sports is to just like have the... this is not visual, but...
You flail your arms around like a...
Or I'm just like a ball is hitting my face. Because that is the fastest reaction. So that's always the one, is like a ball's about to hit my face, duck. Like that is the only reaction that it can happen fast enough.
Oh yeah, no, so... Yeah. Oh, I totally get that. So if I'm playing this game or whatever, like I will see it and I can maybe put my hands up, but I'm never gonna get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to, just in general, for another sighted person PSA. But I think it is like sometimes I think we're going to self-select. If there is a sport where we just can't play it, we're not going to try. Like, we're adults. We're not going to join a baseball league. Nope. There's some things that I just don't think blind people are like, well, why? This is too much work.
Well, and sports can be so uninclusive. You feel like you are... I've never felt, unless the sport was an accessible sport, because I've done those.
Yeah.
I have never felt welcome in the athletic field doing anything.
Able centered, and they're really because a lot of sports these days makes abled people like disabled, and that they're like the hyper able. Like it's so like genetically specific. And then I think each sport is tailored toward people who are like actually abnormal in the genetic makeup they have.
Totally get what you're saying about being like hyper. That's a really great term, hyper able. Yes, because if you're super tall, you play basketball.
Right.
If you're a big guy, you play football. If you're fast, you play soccer. And agile, you play soccer.
Or like run.
Or you run, exactly.
But yeah, and so I think that and then when it's competition, because I think about like, is the Special Olympics offensive But then it's just like competition is inherently problematic for disabled people because we don't get to play by the same rules. And so in that way, it's like it makes sense to separate it. But then part of me, I'm just like, what is the value of competition after? I mean, living in a capitalist society doesn't seem like it does a lot of good. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not really fun if it's just everyone's, if there's no point to it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, well, and we were talking about like reality TV and competition reality, and I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about sports, but I will watch 60 people sing until they're blue in the face. Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And that's a skill. That's the same as you train your voice like you train for a basketball game, Yeah. And it's the same with being an actor.
Well, and people also are like, their perfect pitch is I think it's mostly genetic. Like, I think most people...
Oh, yeah.
You can hone it, but it is like, you have to be born with it.
No, all y'all who assume that blind people have perfect pitch can go fuck yourselves because we do
would
not.
Anyone assume that?
We do not. Oh, Lord, that's a story for another time.
Oh, my gosh.
That's an audition I should have gotten and totally didn't get. Anyway.
I definitely don't have perfect pitch. I do have a very good internal metronome because that's another one. Like, people who become drummers, like, just I can keep a beat so hard. I'm so good at that. I cannot. I have no idea about notes, but that's why I was a drummer in elementary school. But I gave up because I couldn't see. As always. Anyway, that's the story for another day.
You're the drummer, though. What notes are you reading?
Well, it was a band in, like, elementary school, so we had to, like, all read the notes.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was just, like, I had to memorize it, and then I would, like, forget a bar. I would just kind of, like, just go into the wrong part because I had to memorize it. I couldn't actually look. And then it'd be like, well, you should learn the notes. And I'm like, I don't know, because I was undiagnosed, so I was just like, I don't think that will help if I learn the notes because I still have to memorize
half of my time in orchestra in the 6th grade, because when you get into the 6th grade you have the privilege of taking band or orchestra, so I took orchestra and I played the violin. I kind of wish I would have played cello or bass because, like, they're sick, like, they're amazing.
They're cool.
Violins and violas are great too, but there's something about a cello and a bass. Anyway, I would, especially in concert, I would fake it a lot of the times.
You would just not play.
I just wouldn't play. Or I would play the only 4 or 5 notes that I had memorized that I knew in the song.
I think I did the same thing.
Yep. Yeah. And then I would just pretend and smile. Because they're always like, smile, smile, smile. And I would just have this, like, this look of absolute concentration because I had to concentrate. I feel like the
exact same thing happened to me. Because I remember people being, like, very weird, commenting on the weirdest stuff where I'm like, wait, isn't I supposed to be playing music, not, like, looking a certain way? Not that I could, like, do that very well, because I think I did the exact same thing of just being like, I know very small parts of it and then just not really playing because I did not feel confident enough in, I definitely didn't want to fuck anything up, but,
No, exactly. I was like, I don't know. As long as they can't hear me, everything's okay.
As long as there's enough people, but that's why I gave up in middle school. Anyway, that's a sad story for another.
So sad.
But back to the movie, since we've we're just taking a long walk.
Yes, so we were talking about touching, and I do remember what I wanted to say. So, touching, so that scene, and then just seeing him, just little things like seeing him navigate the world, correctly, with his cane and the
way that Ray Fiennes, like, plays it, I was pretty impressed with, which is weird because I was looking up stuff online and people were like, he forgets that he's blind half the time. I'm like, I don't know.
Really?
I think you're just
point out the place, because
I think it was just like, as critics, they're not blind either, and so they were just like saying like, oh, a blind person. It seemed like to be like ableism, because I thought as a blind person it seemed pretty accurate to me, and so I assumed that it was just the writers were like, well, he wasn't incompetent enough. He was too aware of what was going on to be blind.
I mean, guys, he runs into one plant. You got your one plant.
Well, but that's what I love so much about it, was like so many characters just like, I felt like the 2 times that he ran into something were so specific and correct, because the first time was like when he is slept the night at his club, and he's walking around in the, like, going downstairs from the club and bumps into something on the stage, and Sophia is there, and she's like, oh my gosh, you need to use your cane. The cleaning person came and moved everything around, and it was so nice, because like we see him in the club in another scene where he's not even using the cane, because he knows his own club. He knows like where everything is, because that's how blindness works. You learn the spaces you inhabit all the time, and so when someone comes and moves everything around, that is the time, because it was totally played like as a real thing, because nowhere else in the movie was he bumping into stuff, but at a time that you would bump into stuff, which is when someone's moved around your furniture.
Well, and even at the end, when he gets out of the car and runs to the docks, his driver is begging him not to. I was scared because like it was a huge crowd of people, a panicked crowd of people, and I'm like, oh my god, but I never thought he'll never get there, because I'm like, he must know. He knows where that is, where he's going.
Right, and this is like the basically, I mean, it's the climax, but it's also like there's barely a denouement. Yeah, but it is, but I think that is such a great portrayal of the disorientation of blindness. Like, I really loved how much I related, like, because I related to his character so much, and I feel like a lot of times when you have a blind character, you're like, what's happening? Like, why is this person acting this way? I'm supposed to relate to them, but I don't. Whereas I felt so much like you understand the disorientation. Like, he is, I guess we can kind of set up what the scene is, but it's near the end of the film. It is as Japanese forces are invading Shanghai. So basically, as many people as possible are just like in that day leaving Shanghai on boats.
They're all going. Most of them are trying to get out of Hong Kong, like
get to Hong Kong.
Get to Hong Kong. A lot of the white people are trying to get to Hong Kong because it's British.
Yeah. And then and some of them are going to other places in China, but they're basically like everyone's just trying to get out of Shanghai, and there's just chaos, and because everyone is going to the docks as Ray finds his character is going towards, he's like, I'm going to my club, and his driver is like, don't do that, which I think you mentioned before, and he's like, no, I'm not going to not go to my club. Does he have a specific reason? I mean, I think, like, I understood it because it's like the familiarity of it.
Well, that and I think he was actually trying to meet Sophia there.
Oh, was she supposed to be there?
I don't remember if she was supposed to be there, but
he gives her money to go.
And he found out that she didn't go.
But because he goes to the club, and I think he finds out that she didn't go at the club, though.
Oh, you're right.
I don't think that's why.
Okay.
I think it's not, he doesn't have a clear reason to go back to the club other than just like, I'm not, going to let people down is sort of the thing.
That, and because then he has the meeting with Machido at the club.
Right.
And I think maybe he was trying to like protect it in some vague sense, because like, spoiler alert for the entire movie, like we see the club get destroyed.
Yeah. At the very end.
The very, very end. Yeah.
And it is kind of supposed to, I guess, be like a metaphor of the microcosm of Shanghai at the time.
Yeah, that and his little piece of happiness.
Right, and that's a lot of the movie. I think that's kind of the rhetorical connection that the movie makes to blindness, because no movie can just have a blind character for whatever sake. It always has to be some sort of metaphorical thing too. It's fine. But the metaphorical thing in this movie is that he's wanting the world to be in his image, kind of. Not in his image, but like in the image that's in his head. And he's kind of projecting that onto the world in a way.
It's his last hold on sighted memory, I think.
Oh, I did not get that as much.
Because I mean, because he's born with sight and loses it in an accident,
right?
You know, so he is like fixated on this one goal, this thing that he wants to accomplish, and he's always like, it's in my head, like everything is in my head. So I don't know, I just took it as like the last vestiges of
interesting
him having his vision, his sighted
that
memory.
he's holding on to.
He wants everything to be, to be perfect. He wants it the way he wants it, which, he's the club owner, well, he can have that.
Yeah, and that's, I think, kind of the argument of the movie is like he can have it within the walls of the club, but eventually the rest of the world is going to invade it. Yeah, like that you can't make like that. This utopian idea is ultimately like foolhardy, which is true. And I think that like I don't know exactly how I feel about that being his whole thing, because I think that the movie definitely portrays him as being very much enforcing that, because there's also another thing that happens is that near the end, Sophia's character, like we find out, and that's actually when he bumps into all the stuff during that scene, we find out that Ray Fiennes was like making it so that neither of them talked about their family life and would like police it. I think it's not. I said it was near the end, but I think it's more near the middle. Yeah.
Well, and he didn't. I mean, obviously he doesn't hold to that, but we learned that is kind of their working relationship,
which I feel like that could have been, if you're going to do that, it should have been introduced, because it was introduced right as it was starting to like break apart.
Well, I think that whole thing comes up because it's also the club. I just got something too. The club could also represent his wife and his old life literally being destroyed.
Right.
Like he's not stuck, but like he's in Shanghai. He's just lost his daughter and his wife.
Yeah.
So obviously he doesn't want to get close to Sophia because he's just not ready yet. He's not ready to feel. And what does Sophia have? Katya.
Right.
Her
daughter. And so that is part of the agreement, is like neither of them talk about their lives. And so part of it I think is both to protect him from thinking about his daughter. I think really it's kind of shown in both ways. Like he doesn't want to hear about her daughter because it protects him from thinking about his own, and he also doesn't want to talk about his own daughter because it's painful to talk about. So he's kind of like, so it's very much about him like suppress it, like kind of going in within himself and like carrying the trauma silently, but feeling like he can't let it out, which I mean is masculinity. Like that's a problem of like not, being able to talk about trauma, I think is a common thing that comes up, especially I feel like, well, I mean, I think it is kind of a toxic masculinity thing of like needing to bottle up trauma. And I feel like he's very much like a problematic male character when he does that. It feels so like toxic masculinity kind of thing when he's like, we don't talk about our families. It's just not a very effective way of dealing with trauma.
No, and it's also just another cliche, like,
yeah,
obviously,
and I don't.
And then they're gonna start talking, and they do.
Right, which that's why I wish, like, it bothered me that it wasn't introduced earlier, because it did feel like they introduced it just because they didn't even hint at that before, and there was plenty of time to introduce that as an idea, but they only introduce it when it's like, okay, well now we need to break this idea, because it instantly is broken down when she's like, oh, I know we agreed to not talk about our family, and then like the next scene is like them starting to chip away at that. It's like instantly that it's introduced so that it can instantly be transformed.
So another thing I liked, and I don't know how much my 2 cents about this matters, because I'm not fully blind, but I'm not fully sighted either. But did you notice, especially when Ray Fiennes and Mr. Machido are talking, their conversations are never shot like a 2-shot. One person talks,
yeah.
the other person talks. One person talks. They're shot head on and sideways, because
Right.
Ralph Fiennes is never truly looking at him.
Yeah.
He's almost always got his head, almost in every scene, his head is down, tilted down a little ways.
Yeah, I thought they did a very good job with the eye lines.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they were probably in the same place. Anytime you never see two people in the same shot, you're like, were they not able to get them at the same time? But I doubt that's it. Yeah, no, I think that is really interesting. That the way that they're positioned is always a little bit, they're never directly on. Though I feel like sometimes, does he have...
He does look, especially especially when he's talking to Sophia, he does look at her.
That's what I was gonna say.
He
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
So maybe it's like, he loves Sophia, trusts Sophia, so he's gonna look at her, and he's a little wary of Machido. But I don't know, that doesn't sound right either, because they become friends. I mean, technically.
Well, they become friends, but I think that makes more sense, because I think that I do think there's some validity to that, because the Machido's
Mr. Matsuda, whose name I have been saying wrong the entire time.
Right.
I apologize. His name is Mr. Matsuda.
right, and he I think that like his character is always trying to have Ralph find this kind of like enabling all his ideas about the perfect world he wants to create.
Which is makes sense, because he's basically running the Japanese invasion.
Right.
Wherever Matsuda goes, Japan follows, essentially.
Right, which is kind of like the climactic. I feel like I've said like 10 things more climax, but the climax is very complicated. So, in my defense, these all are all part of the climax. But you do. That's kind of like the very beginning of it. Is that you see that or you hear one of the characters tell the just kind of like ancillary characters that works with Ralph Fiennes' character, like says something about how every time Matsudo goes to a new city, the Japanese invade, and like we don't know that until near the end. So during the entire movie, like at the very beginning of the movie, starts with like them with Ralph Fiennes and Matsudo meeting in like a bar, I guess. They just kind of, meet there. Like they start talking to each other there.
Yeah, they meet at the Little Club.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's like a very packed club. Which,
yes.
honestly, that was the one thing where I was like, this seems so stressful. As a blind person, I would never be like, I want to be here.
Oh, I know, right? I was like, are you... Okay. Hey, you know what? To each his own, I guess.
Honestly, that and the feeling the face thing are the two most unrealistic things in the entire movie. And I don't know why they start with that club and him enjoying it, because I'm like, I would not want to be there. It's so stressful.
I think it's for sighted people. It's saying, oh, look at me. I'm a blind person, but I go to these little clubs. I go to the weird, off the wall, scuzzy places.
Right.
I go to the places that nobody else in
the high society
will frequent, and I'm blind. So it's basically a red flag for sighted people. Like, oh, this guy's blind, but that's not going to stop him.
It is the first, because I think it is like the first scene we see him, but it is a screenwriting thing where it's like the first time you see a character, they have to be doing something that really sets up who they are as a character. Right. And so that's kind of like a representation of that.
He goes against the grain. He doesn't care what other people think.
He's in a very crowded club, and I've never met a blind person who would want to be in that club. But
no.
Other than that,
it's crowded and it's noisy, and he's standing
chaos.
He's standing at the bar, not getting a drink. Or no, does he have a drink? I can't remember. But yeah, I'm just like, this is okay.
Why are you there? Like, this is that is a situation I would instantly be like, I want to leave. I don't want to be here. It's like sensory overload, and he's yes. I don't know how he could like focus on what Matsuda is. That now? Am I saying it wrong?
Masuda.
Okay. Oh God, I know. I feel like, but he's not. I don't know how, because they're having a conversation, and I do not know how he is able to understand what Matsuda's saying.
Yeah, no, I have...
Because it's so loud.
I have no clue. I mean, it's...
But
so,
yeah.
So there's that.
But...
Yeah. At the horse racing track. So he tells Matsuda, I'm gonna bet one of these days I'm gonna bet everything on a horse. I'm gonna win, and then I'm gonna open my own club.
Right.
And Matsuda's just like, cool, bro. Yeah, all right, do that. And so he does, and he wins, and he opens. Yeah, that's how he opens. I'm assuming that's how he opens the White Countess. But the neat thing at the racetrack, I don't know if you noticed what he's doing while the horses are running.
He's like galloping.
He's riding a horse.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously, in his sighted life, he rode horses. That he must have.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm. I just thought that was a really cool, like, visual. Like, there's no dialogue. It's just you cut to the horses, and then he's making like he's riding a horse, and then you cut back, and he's still galloping on the horse, and he's like making all the hand gestures and everything. And I just thought that was really cool.
It is something I thought a lot about, because I feel like for the beginning of my life, I was so focused on like how I was coming off to other people, and like not doing very weird, outlandish things in public. And at a certain point, it clicked that like, well, I can't really see the people around me, so what do I have to lose?
Well, yeah, no, because I kept thinking,
weird.
because I kept thinking like, oh my god, people are gonna see him. Oh my god, are they gonna think he's like having a seizure or whatever? But nobody does.
Right, no one pays it. But I think that that's like something that I think it can kind of go either way, because I know in my life I've had both, where I'm like hyper aware of how I'm being perceived by others, because I have no idea how I'm being perceived, because I can't see anyone, and so that can be either completely paralyzing, or that can be very freeing, and that you're like, oh, who cares? Like, these are strangers, I can't even see them. Like, why do I care what they're doing? Like, what they're thinking, like, about me? That's just like so beside the point, you know? And so I think that there is that, but I think most blind people probably have at least one or the other at any given time, and I think it changes as you're different points in life, like you feel differently. But I think it is interesting to like have a character that has that kind of like freedom of just doing whatever they want in public, because they don't have to worry about what other people think, because they're not really having to engage with those people as much.
And and another thing I liked about his character is he's also not like an idiot savant, like he's also, and he's not a super crip.
Yeah,
like there isn't one thing that he can just like do better than everybody else. There isn't a scene of him like literally saving somebody. Like, yes, there's the scene with him and Sophia on the dock and the neighbor, and they're trying to get Katya out of the boat. But but he talks to her. He doesn't extend his cane. He doesn't jump in and try and save her.
Yeah. A lot of it, like, it really shows his strengths are reasonably blind people's strengths.
Yeah.
Like, they feel... it is funny because he also like saves her by giving her money in the beginning. That's true. That's like part, which is like it has nothing to do with the blindness. It is much more about class stuff.
Yeah. That's how the family gets the passports and heads to Hong Kong, and then they basically just fuck Sophia over because they're like, we have all the papers and we didn't get any for you. But we're going to take your daughter. And it's just like...
I was like, you're going to die.
Whoa.
This is so horrible. They're horrible from the very first moment. Like, because they're just so fucking, like, horrible about her being a sex worker.
They're
and
ungrateful.
So fucking shitty about it. Like, that it made me furious. And they just get worse and worse to her fucking family. It's just scum of the earth.
Yeah, and I mean, and Sophia asks, Krishna to take care of Katya, like if anything happens to her. But I'm just like...
they like gaslight her. Like, I feel like the entire movie there, and I do feel like it is like a realistic portrayal again of like someone who's being gaslit about her life so much. And I think that like that, and then you can come into the questions of like, when are we going to see like sex workers in a more, positive, like where they're not being gaslit by society, but we're not there yet. Like, I guess it's the same with disability probably too, but at least it's more true to life.
Yeah, but I mean, I think and I think Krishna thought that she could give Katya a better life because her mother is is a sex worker basically, and well, there's also that one scene with no dialogue where Sophia comes home and finds Katya has put on all her makeup.
Yeah.
But, instead of like screaming at her or shunning her or whatever, she just takes her into her arms and hugs her and cries.
Well, because Sophia's like a very good mom.
She's a wonderful mother. That's
and the rest
also,
of the family
I'm like,
are psychopaths.
You are trying to tear this daughter away from this woman who's a really good
right,
mom.
like their plan to take the daughter. It's just so, and I mean, at least the daughter knows that like the mom is the safe adult. Like she is not. It's not. There's no question. Like she does not feel safe with the rest of the family. It definitely is very close to Sophia.
Well, she'd rather spend time with her mother, obviously, or Mr. Feinstein, the neighbor downstairs.
Yeah,
and his family.
I liked that. I mean, so that character gets introduced really pretty far into the movie, I believe.
No, you meet him. You don't.
Am I wrong?
You don't necessarily meet him yet, but you see his children because Katya asked if she can go play with the neighbor downstairs, and of course Krushna or somebody is like,
like
the filthy Jew downstairs. Right. Yeah, but she goes anyway.
Right, because they're like. They can't just be horribly sexist and
no, they're also
anti-Semitic. Yes. What a fabulous family. They're just so hideous. I'm just like,
well, it's they're all royalty, right?
Right.
So they didn't have to deal with any of this in Russia. I'm guessing,
and that they're very like, we're not stooping so low,
right.
But it's like, except for you
Sophia,
have to.
Yeah, right. But Sophia has adapted.
Right, she's like just a better person, basically. Like she does, and I think that's like something that both of the characters. Okay, so one is where he finds his characters. Todd Jackson, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson.
That is like he found an American name generator.
Yeah, it's the most
I
American.
need an American name. Todd Jackson.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very on the nose. But yeah, so Mr. Jackson. But him and Sophia, I feel like both have that quality of like adaptation and like feeling kind of just like, well, this is the position that I've been put in, and so I'm going to make the best of this situation, and like, and being kind of non-judgmental, and like, having, because I think both of them have fallen from privilege in a way, like they both are characters that had privilege they no longer have, and I think navigating those dynamics of like still maintaining some privilege but then being completely thrown into a different kind of class of people basically in a different way, and how they are just so much more adaptable than I guess you can see the foil of Sophia as the family, but I guess Mr. Jackson, he doesn't really have the same kind of well, no, he does have foil characters, because everyone in the business, which what exactly is his business? He's a diplomat, but then it's very unclear what he does for work.
Yeah, he works for some like law firm or something.
Yeah, it's very vague.
A firm that doesn't want him anymore.
Right, because they kind of just are like, why are you associating with the poor people? Like, because it is kind of funny. Like both of the Russian family and the company people are both just completely like they're like, I mean, maybe I'm sure it's real prejudice, but it's so fucking on the nose and extreme, like,
and to that I say, it's a Merchant Ivory film.
Yeah,
like you're not
getting subtlety.
You're not going to a Merchant Ivory film for subtlety. Yeah,
I mean, yet somehow the blind character is probably the most real. I mean, most blind characters aren't as subtly real. I don't know if that, maybe it's not subtlety, maybe it's just
and I
reality.
mean also the theme of like touching. If you think about like literally the first shot you see of him is you see the cane and you see his hand on the chair, and I thought to myself, okay, this must be their blind character, because that's cinematic language for this person is blind, because then you pan up and you see his head is tilted forward, but you also his eyes are kept in shadow a lot of the time. I thought that was a really useful way of portraying blindness, but yet not having to do anything to his eyes. Because when you look at his eyes, like, full on, and he's looking at somebody,
sometimes they are focused.
They're
on
so,
the person,
you're like, I'm like, this is a sighted person's eyes. Okay, you know.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah.
Which is maybe what to give those reviewers I read credit, that might be what they're talking about. But yeah, I know what you mean. Though, okay, so there's one moment that I don't want to forget to talk about that I really loved, which is when the scene where they see him at the cafe.
Right.
Listening basically to comedy podcasts is what I was saying. I'm like, that's me. I do that because he's just sitting there laughing at the radio. And I loved it so much because I've definitely been someone who sat alone at a table laughing in public and then be like, what? And then like sort of being self-conscious about it, but also be like, whatever. You know, so I related so hard in that moment.
Yes, the worst is when you're listening to like This American Life or like whatever and you're crying on the
Oh my God,
like,
I've cried on the bus
openly
before.
weeping.
There was like a This American Life episode where like Tom York was talking about have you heard, do you listen to it every week?
Yeah, almost every week. Well, and then I have to backtrack and listen to the,
because this was like maybe like it might have been as much as a couple years ago, but maybe like a year ago.
Oh, I probably heard it but don't remember.
There was like, it's an episode where just talking about This American Life. There's an episode where they're like talking about different I think it's Teen Vogue did like this video series where they, it might be a different thing, but it's some like teen girl newspaper or something where they did this series of just like famous people giving like girls advice, and there is one with Tom York where he talks about how he has a scar on his eye and how he used to be so self-conscious about it, and then at a certain point he realized that like that is one of the most beautiful things about him, and like and I, oh my God, I'm not gonna do a very good job. I was like crying on the bus. I just like, cause I don't know, I love Tom York a lot. Just like his music is very important to me, and then just like talking about something that's so relatable.
There is a you can get it on the Reply All feed or the Radiolab podcast feed, and it's just the episode is called The Cathedral. It's
because I listen to Reply All.
Yeah,
so yeah.
It's fucking beautiful. I mean, it's literally one of the best podcast episodes I have heard in a long time. And it's very sad. It's very sad.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm eating a fucking breakfast burrito and just, just crying on the max in my fucking breakfast burrito.
At least when you're crying on a bus, I'm always like, well, at least someone could be like, maybe she's sad. I feel like when you're laughing, it's a little bit weirder. Be like, well,
I get really nervous now to laugh especially on a bus because like everybody has seen Joker, right?
Oh,
nobody wants
I haven't
that.
seen it. Is that like it's so funny.
God.
I've actually once had a bus driver who's like, "What are you listening to?" And I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Yeah, you were laughing." And I was like, "Oh no, it's a comedy podcast."
Oh my God! So in the movie, Joaquin Phoenix's character, the Joker, has a mental disability that when he gets panicked or stressed or when something is awkward, he laughs.
Isn't that human beings all do that?
I mean, yes, but like his is like he physically can't control it. Like,
right.
It's just it hurts. It's kind of amazing to watch, and he's playing with a kid on the bus because he's a clown or in the movie, you know.
He's a clown.
He's a clown because he's a party clown.
He's a literal clown.
So yes. So he's playing peekaboo with this kid on the bus, and the mother sees them and stay away from my son, you know. Blah, blah. And that spooks him, and he just starts laughing. Uncontrollable. I mean, he just cannot control it. It's like it's just this physical thing that it's a tic, but it's a horrible tick.
So it's like that, like kind of like a Tourette's-y thing.
I guess kind of, but not really.
I mean, you can't really look to the DC universe for like a very accurate and non-offensive portrayal
of mental illness.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we need to talk about Arkham. Not today, but
we will. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Someone needs to talk about it.
I'm sure people have, but I'm happy to do it at some point. Though we've gone on so many great tangents that we probably should not do this episode.
Yes. There was a great panel at Rose City last year, actually, that talked about mental illness in comics. It was one of the few I could go to.
Nice.
And unfortunately, we did not talk nearly enough about Arkham and DC in general, because I'm like, you really want to... Yeah.
Just even the way that they deal with, like, abuse and, like, domestic violence stuff, I think about that a lot. It's working with survivors.
It's Harley Quinn and the Joker.
Yeah, and just the way that they, like, make her seem complicit when it's like she is in like an extremely abusive relationship, and like that's the fact that she's villainized just feels very like.
However, in DC's humble defense, I don't know how if you keep up with DC at all, but they are very, very slowly and now more quicker are actually turning Harley's character around.
That seems like they should be doing that.
Yes, she is.
Because Suicide Squad. I mean,
no. Fuck Suicide Squad. No. Harley is no longer with the Joker. She is her own person.
That's good.
She's having a thing with Poison Ivy on the side.
Oh, so she's a queer character now?
Yes, Harley's bi. Yeah.
And is she still a villain?
She's an anti-hero. She's in the same status as like Catwoman
is. Sort of an anti-hero.
There's so
he's
much
rich,
to talk about.
So
Batman.
I guess he's not an anti-hero. No,
I mean, Batman is a hero, but Batman is also a psychopath.
He's a little, he could definitely range in the toxic masculinity, depending on the portrayal. But but generally pretty high up there.
The animated series, the new animated Harley Quinn series on DC Universe, it's good. It's the only reason I subscribe to that DC Universe is to watch that show. It's amazing.
I at some point I'll have to check it out.
It's Alan Tudyk's in it.
Oh,
and he plays the Joker and Clayface.
Wait. I don't. Is this another villain?
Yes. So Clayface is
my lore.
No, you're fine. I
guess it's DC.
No, I grew up on DC, so I'm not an expert by any means.
I grew up on comics. Theoretically, I'm just very bad at remembering everything.
No, so Clayface is the equivalent to Clayface would be Sandman in the Marvel comics. He's completely made of clay, and as Sandman is one of Spider-Man's villains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they're the same because they can both rearrange their molecular structure to shapeshift into anything or anyone.
Oh, okay. That's
his whole shtick. But in this series, his whole shtick is he's a failed actor, and it's amazing.
That sounds like fun.
Yes, it's wonderful. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good. Though we should say that for recommending things. At the end.
My God, yes! I can just talk about that. I can talk about that all day. Yeah.
But I'll definitely have to check that out. Yeah. So to get back to that scene where he's laughing in the cafe, the thing that I also really liked in that scene is like when the daughter, at one point, the daughter is the one who's like, okay, we're gonna. Like, isn't that because she's never met him? Katya is her name, right? Mm-hmm. She had not met Mr. Jackson before, and so she just sees that there's a blind guy, and she's like, "Oh, is that the person that you?" Because
obviously there's only one blind man person in Shanghai. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, he is, like, a white person. So, like, it's not that bad of, like, I don't know how many, like, white, like, blind people would just be sitting in a cafe in the area. It's not that much, like...
I'm yanking your chain. The fact that she's actually never seen him, which is something I... literally just realized right that second. Was like, oh yeah, she doesn't know what he looks like. No, she's only heard her mother talk about him.
Right, so she just knows details about him that I guess were enough to tell. It's like sort of suspending disbelief, but then it didn't break it for me. I was like, yeah, she probably has enough information to like make it. And also kids are always just like make weird assumptions and it just sometimes they're true. But yeah, so she's like, but because they're like, well, we're not supposed to be like talking about our families to each other, or Sophia's not supposed to talk to him about Katya. Sophia's like, oh, then let's go, let's not talk to him, let's not bother him. And then Katya goes back and is like, hey, are you Mr. Jackson or whatever? I don't know what she says exactly, but like just runs back and to talk to him. And at one point when they're talking, she like is talking to him and he's making kind of like eye contact with her, and then she just like runs around him and he just keeps making eye contact because I think he's like talking to her at the time. And I really like that because it was very subtle, but like it was just like it was kind of thinking through how blindness actually works. It was like one of those subtle ways of being like, if she's not saying anything and he's having a conversation with her, like he's looking where she was, and so he wouldn't register when she just like randomly runs to the side. And it was just one of those subtle things that I appreciated because it wasn't like that much fanfare. It was just kind of like cute choreography, kind of. I don't know, but that was the scene. That was that scene.
No, that's a good scene. Well, and that also, because hearing you explain it, I was like, because Katya runs up to him and he doesn't acknowledge her at first.
Right. That's like, another thing. Yeah.
Is it because she's a little girl and he might not want to deal with a little girl right now?
Well, because she says, hey.
Right. Or B, does he just assume, oh shit, this must be Sophia's daughter? Like, why would a little girl be talking to me? Or he's literally having a panic attack because he lost his daughter in the I'm assuming it was a train collision or something, but in the accident,
right,
he lost his daughter,
which is probably, it's one of those. In my head at first I was just like, well, someone's just being like, hey, and if someone did that and they were talking to me, I wouldn't know they were talking to me. I would just be like minding my own business, and they would have to like really do something drastic for me to know that it was them. But I think you're probably right that that's what the movie was thinking, is like he knew it was her but was avoiding like talking with her. But I was just like, well, but why would he know it was her? Because it's just a little girl.
Right, or maybe he just avoids all little girls.
Well, that's the thing that I do, and I don't know if you do this.
Completely plausible.
Right. Do you do the thing where if someone's like trying to get your attention, you just don't give it to them for a while because you're like, maybe they're trying to get my attention, but it would be more embarrassing if they weren't. Then, like, because I am blind, so then they're the asshole trying to get the attention of a blind person.
I'm always worried. Like, I'll hear someone say, "Hey, how you doing?" or whatever, or "Hello" is the worst.
Yeah.
Hello. And I'll just immediately, hello. Because, like, I've worked in so many service jobs. So it's like someone acknowledges you, you just acknowledge them right back. And then it's you're in that weird space of
hoping
were you talking to me?
Yeah.
Are you talking? And then, do I know who you are? And then, do I remember what your name is? Like, in that order, slowly getting more panicked.
Yeah. That's funny because I will do the opposite of just being like, there have been so many times where someone's trying to say hi to me and I've had to do the awkward thing of them saying hi like 4 times. I'm like, oh, me? Like, are you talking to me? And they're like, I'm sorry, I'm blind. Like, that's a thing I can't do. But honestly, both them suck, which is why there's no good answer to which, because I think you generally, I mean, sometimes I guess I'm more likely to say hi if I'm in a situation where it's more likely they are talking, like I'll do the math of like, well, it's more likely they're talking to me. But there's been so many times where someone's like, why are you being so rude? Like, someone I could tell was getting annoyed that I was not acknowledging them when I was literally just like, I was aware of them, but I was also just really uncertain if they were talking to me. And so I did not want to, just because I actually really just hate being in a position where I accidentally think someone's talking to me, and it's like a phobia of mine that I will avoid it.
Oh yeah, no,
to the detriment.
Or you make the mistake, and this is the one I make all the time, is I will literally start carrying a conversation with somebody
And they're on the phone.
And they're on the phone, or I've mistaken them for someone that I know.
Oh, like, so you'll start the conversation?
Yep. And I'll just rattle, you know, and then they look at me, and then I realize, oh my God, you're not.
Oh, no.
You are not at all who I thought you were. You don't know. You didn't get anything that I just said. Well, okay, the worst one was at the state fair back home in Alaska. There was a fella named Rakim who was in the play with me at the time, and it was a comedy of errors, so we needed lots of people. So he was a soldier. He was one of the Duke's soldiers, and he had these like awesome dreads. And he just kept them for the entire play. And so so everybody called him Buffalo Soldier for the entire play. And he'd walk by, Buffalo Soldier, you know, and whatever. He did it too. So, you know, and so there, when I went into the fair, now, because we live in America, you get your bags checked when you go into the state fairs. It's ridiculous. So I'm getting my bag checked.
Especially in Alaska.
Yes. Well, in Alaska, yes, but also you got to remember that in Alaska, everybody's got a gun.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, especially in Alaska, because everyone's got a gun.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm going through the bag check, and the gentleman who checks my bag is black, and he has dreadlocks. So I walk up to him, and I look at him like, oh my God, Rakim, what's up, Buffalo Soldier? Like, you know, I didn't know you was working at the fair. And then, like, he stops and he looks at me, and it's that moment of, like, instant, I fucked up, and I fucked up hard.
Oh my gosh.
And he gives me my bag back, and he's like, yeah, I suppose we all look the same to you. Like,
did you have your cane?
I did. I had my cane, and
That's not
so
cool,
I looked.
dude.
So I looked at him, and I was like, "Well, dude, I'm blind." And then we just decided that it would be mutually beneficial if we parted ways at that exact same moment in time.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like, you're blind. I do that with everyone. Which is also, I think you're just reinforcing why I will have had so many times where people have gotten annoyed at me for not responding to them trying to get my attention, because I will 100% of the time, like, really, I do always err on the caution of, like, being very careful. I feel like the only times I might take a chance is when I'm in a situation where it's like an environment where everyone's saying hello to each other and I'm like, probably know the person, like it's also in an environment where I most likely know whoever's talking, so that even if I don't, like, if I'm at like a show where there's like a lot of people in the show, I might know I might be like, okay, you're probably talking to me, and if not, it won't be that big of a deal. But I never even assume I know who they are. Like, I'm just like so careful.
Well, and a lot of my improv friends, especially over at Funhouse, have been making an effort to be like, hey Melissa, it's Kristen. Hey Melissa, it's Luna. Hey,
that's
Melissa,
good. Especially saying your name is really, because I feel like I don't even need, like, it can be helpful when people say who they are, but I'm fine with them not. But it's just saying my name is going to really help me pay attention to you. And I really appreciate when people are like, hey Sky, like, because then I don't, and Sky especially is nice, because it's very unlikely there'll be another Sky in the area, and if there was, it would be very understandable that I thought it was me. But yeah, you telling that story just makes me very certain that I should never, ever, ever say hello back to someone unless they say hey, Sky.
Okay, that, and what you should never do is open with an inside joke.
Yeah.
Assume.
Yeah.
That they're that person, and you just.
Oh my God. I sometimes feel bad because people will be like, hey, it's, Joe or whatever. And I'm like, I definitely know it's Joe, but I'm just like so scared to ever identify people that people think God. I don't know them. And I'm like, I'm just too scared.
I go through that. No. I get it. I go through that all the time, even with my improv buddies. I know who's talking to me sometimes. I know your name when we're all back in the dressing room.
Right.
And I am still so afraid to say it.
Yeah.
Names are so hard.
They're hard, and I'm like, I know people's names and I never use it, and then I always feel bad when I definitely make it seem like I don't know someone when I do. I'll always feel very guilty. But yeah, it is. it is better though than ever assuming anyone's identity. But I mean, there is a lot of social cost to it. Like, it does make parties really unfun. Like, it makes a lot of, and you sometimes don't feel as close to people, but at least you spend most of your time in environments where people do say, like, do address you directly. And because I think that tends to be more welcoming environments in general if people are making an effort to, like, reach out to you. And so I think that's helped me at least to, like, structure my life so that I'm in more environments where people will, like, directly address me and, like, make it obvious, because that is another this is a lot of cited PSAs, but that if you really want to, like, make a blind friend to, like, feel welcome, it's like saying hi with their name directly, and I think, like,
followed by it's identify yourself.
Yeah, and even I think that one, like, that one might be a good one to ask the blind person, because I think because I don't really care if you do that or not, and so but I also think some blind people, it is really helpful, so, like, kind of checking in with someone, be like, is this helpful?
Yeah, and most of my friends did,
right?
Like, Kim, you know, I just saw, well, a lot of them watch Molly Burke on YouTube. She's, like, the blind YouTuber.
Oh,
she's pretty cool, and she makes videos about being blind and PSAs and all that.
That's helpful.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, and all that sort of thing. So when I came in one night, the bartender was like, "Oh my God, I just saw Molly Burke and da 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 da," and she's talking about, like, identification and everything, and she's like, "What do you think? You know, you're blind. What do you think?" I'm like, "I think that's a really great idea." So she and a lot of other people just do it now, and you're right. Sometimes I don't need it. Sometimes I'll walk in and you'll be talking to me and I instantly know the voice. Right.
And then also my biggest fear with that one is that someone will say their name and that won't help me because I won't know that person's name. And so then they'll, like, see on my face that I'm, like, that there's no recognition. So that's honestly why I don't like it, because I'm always afraid. And sometimes I do recognize someone more by their voice than their name. And so sometimes hearing their voice is going to be more helpful. And if it's not helpful, I feel better, like, being like, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. I didn't know who you were. Because then they don't take it personally.
Yeah, it's usually dark in the theater. So my go-to is, it's so dark in here, I can't tell who anybody is.
Right, which is, I mean, it's nice because it makes you, it's a nice social thing because it makes the other person not feel bad about it, and you don't have to feel bad about it. And, like, I feel like forgetting people sucks, and so it makes it, and I think sighted people do it too. So it is kind of nice to just be like, we can all feel good about this situation. Like, even if I did forget who you are, we don't have to, like, that doesn't have to be a thing that's weird. Mm-hmm. Like, and you don't even have to know that I didn't, because I can just blame it on my blindness, and I don't know, and then I, like, learn who you are. Maybe, and over time, I really like you as a person, and we would have maybe gotten off to a more shaky start if you realized I didn't recognize you, or, like, didn't really know you when you knew me. But, yeah, that just finding the bright sides of, being blind. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of them. But yeah, to go back to the movie, we can kind of finish up final thoughts. I mean, I'd like to talk a little bit more about, like, the very end of the movie, because we kind of touched upon it when he's, like, going through the crowd, and to go to the club, he is going against the crowd. And then of people, like, running to the docks because it's in the opposite direction. But then when after he gets to the club and realizes that he wants to go and find Sophia and like, because she, yeah, I don't know how important it is because it is kind of slightly complicated, and we've kind of touched upon the different plot points. But
everyone that can is trying to get out of Shanghai at this point, and he is paid for Sophia's family to leave and go to Hong Kong, and they try and ditch Sophia. Yep. And they also try and take her daughter. So everyone is trying to get to the docks.
And it's, like, all separate groups. And, like, and all the people who want to be together are apart. Because we have Sophia has not yet met up with, like, Ray finds is still trying to find her, and she's trying to find Katya, and I think that the person who tells, isn't it the neighbor who says, who's the one who's like, this is stupid, you should be with her, and so Sophia is Sophia with the neighbor at that point, or does, because the neighbor finds Ray finds
yes. literally, because I think because they've all made it to the docks at this point. They've all made it, and Katya's on the boat with her family, and Sophia's looking for her, and Ray Fiennes is looking for Sophia, and
right.
He trips again, because he's tripped multiple times. I mean, of course. And
right. Well, because he loses his cane. Is that when
Yes, he loses. No. So he gets out of the car, goes through the crowd, gets pushed over, falls, loses his cane, can't find his cane, which is like 2 feet to the left. The age-old dilemma. Can't find his cane, so he just gets up and keeps walking.
Right.
And he runs into a bunch of Japanese soldiers.
Yeah, that moment is really striking.
Oh my God, I thought they were going to kill him. I was so scared.
He's just like, because he's like feeling around, and they're just like all standing there with their, oh God, it's so stressful.
The bayonets.
The bayonets.
Yeah. And he comes up and he like is feeling the bayonet and everything, and slowly coming out, and just like, oh my God, they're gonna shoot him. Oh my God. And he's like, I'm blind. I'm just trying to find my way. And everybody's okay with it.
Yeah.
They're just like, cool. Like, put the bayonets down, and like they make a path for him, and I'm just like, okay.
I mean, I feel like it's interesting because it is like, it's a situation that because he can't see, he found himself in. Like, I don't think, a sighted person would ever be in that position. But I think it's interesting that the movie's kind of saying, like, this is all kind of theater, war is somewhat theater.
Yeah,
and it's just because you went in this corner that a sighted person would be afraid to go into. That is why you're allowed to pass, because it's just like that. A lot of it is show to begin with. Like,
right. No, this was definitely one of the more theatrical moments of the film.
Right. And it's also like, I feel like saying that, kind of making a commentary on war and how, the performativeness of war, like that it is just because, I mean, it's kind of, war is kind of ridiculous. I mean, like, not to make it seem,
not to get political.
Well, but not to like downplay the
sure.
the horrors also.
Of course,
but I think that there to some extent it is. I mean, it does feel pointless, and also
it is a bit of a spitting contest, like,
Yeah, there's not. There's no righteous war, basically, but there's also like, it does feel like a lot of it is. I mean, performative, I think, is the best word I'm going to come up with, but like that it's more like the symbolizing of it than. People don't need to die, but they do. Like, I don't know. But I think that part is kind of is part of that commentary on it. But just the fact that they just let him through because they're just like, oh, whatever, he's blind. But it is still so stressful because it's in that chaos, and this is like something I worry about all the time in life, is just like when things are chaos, like even just doing like a fire drill at my work, I like when I've done that, I've been like, oh, so this is like something where I'm gonna be more unsafe, like, like there's this sense of like, once any bit of chaos is introduced into a situation, and when lives are on the line, you are just so much more vulnerable to that.
I mean, fire drills gave me the sweats when I was little. I mean, it was an event. For me, it was just
they're scary, like, yes. And it's really hard to like, to know people forget how much they're relying on their vision, and also when people are scared, they are not accommodating.
No.
And like when other people's vision narrows, they're not thinking about how they can help their fellow people.
Well, I mean, look at Ray Fiennes' character when he got out of the car.
Right.
and disappeared into the sea of people. I mean, nobody gave a shit. Like, they were all trying to get to the docks.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you know, it is understandable in fight or flight. That's like, to be accommodating, to think of the people around you as something that you do when you feel safe. Like, and it is human nature to not be able to do that when you feel threatened, and that's not, there's nothing, you know, I don't think that it says anything about the person, but it definitely says something about what trauma can, especially in the moment, can do to, like, what it does to people automatically. But then it's also like, so when you have that mass, like, fear and threat, then it is especially, like, scary for blind people who, and just especially the fact that everything's changing, like the shifting geography and dynamics of the geography just seems so scary. Like, that's just such a nightmare. And that he's like going against the crowd, and then that he has to find them. Like, it's just like the climax is just the like, I swear I have had nightmares that are just that the last like 20 minutes of that movie.
Yeah.
It's just like one thing after another.
You've lost your cane.
Right, you've lost your cane. You don't know where anyone. You're
There's
trying
a
to find
crowd.
people
Yeah.
a giant crowd of panicked people, and you're literally trying to find people, which is already just the worst. That's a nightmare in itself. Is finding anyone is like one of the biggest fears that I have. Like, and then you don't have your cane, and also there's like explosions. So like, literally explosions. The other number one nightmare of any blind person is explosions.
Loud noises. Loud noises.
Yeah, they're so disorienting.
No, that whole part, I was really tense. I was just like, this is not. Oh my god. Well, good news is oddly enough, they all find each other.
Right.
They all do. And they are able to get Katya off of the boat.
Yeah. Which is really, it definitely was one of those things where they set up the climax where I was like, oh my god, it's amazing, they did it. Like, you know, it felt earned, just, and then there was so much stress. Yes. And so they got her off the boat, and then they go to somewhere else in China, right? Because the family winds up still going to Hong Kong.
Yeah, I'm not sure where. I'm not sure if they're going to Hong Kong. It's not really clear, but they, and including Mr. Feinstein, they all board another boat,
right,
and leave.
Yeah,
and the last beautiful image of the movie, well, one of them is Sophia, holding Ray Fiennes' hand.
Right,
like,
because
really,
he doesn't have his
really
cane.
holding it. Yeah.
And that, I mean, I feel like that was a very sweet, and it felt like a very good, like, climax of a movie with a blind character, because it just felt very much like kind of building those movie stakes of a climax, and the resolution all felt very genuine. Like, there wasn't like an uncanny valley thing of like something being like, well, a blind person could handle this, or like a blind person couldn't handle this. Like, it felt just so spot on in all of it that I really liked that it, like, you set up the stakes to be so high that were genuinely blind people nightmares, and then you kind of have this moment of like the denouement of like after the crisis, where there's, because it is very melancholy, the ending. Because they are like going off, but in a way it's very hopeful too.
Yeah, well, but I mean, basically they gave up everything. I mean, she obviously had given it all up before she met him, but
when they both kind of had gone through their own loss. But
I mean, he, you know, I'm assuming that, like, unless he has like bank accounts everywhere or whatever, you know,
that he didn't have the money,
that he might not have.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if they have anything explicitly about that. Because in my head, I was thinking that I didn't think that he wouldn't have the money. But you might be right, and I might be forgetting something.
I don't know. I mean, it's about giving up your old life, which is what Sophia did.
Well, they're giving up the new home that they made for themselves.
Right. And now they're moving.
It's like a very much a refugee story, because it was from the beginning kind of a refugee story, but then like it's like it's also about the tenuous nature of being a refugee, and like, and you kind of see I mean, having also, I think, going into World War II, the fact that they are traveling with the like Jewish character, you know, and this all takes place, you know, in like the early 30s. So I feel like that refugee story is so specific to, you know, a Jewish character during that time period makes it feel very
well, and it's not the early 30s, it's late 30s, because
by the end of the movie.
Right. Well, the movie opens in 1939.
Oh, does it?
Yep,
I missed that.
No, the titles are at the bottom of the screen, and I almost missed it, but I was like, oh no, the movie opens in Shanghai in 1939.
Okay. So
and then we time jump a year.
So it's
1940. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. So it's really. Oh, so they probably were. I guess he must have already, Feinstein must have already been escaping the Nazis to some extent.
Yes. Yeah. He doesn't say Nazis, but I think they have a conversation about. Yes, they do, because he sits Sophia down for her to rest, and they talk very briefly about, I came from a hard life just like you, because they all know she's a countess,
right?
And I had to escape. I had to escape evil people.
Right, which, I mean, Jews not doing super well in that part of the world for a little bit. I mean, my family got out of Russia during like the pogroms at the turn of the century.
Wow.
But so I don't actually, because of that, don't have any direct relatives who are Holocaust survivors, because they got out early enough. But yeah, it is. But it's definitely, for me, I felt like that helped ground it in a very relatable sense of, like, because they are kind of ancillary to that, to the conflicts in general of World War II. It is an oddly, like, not apolitical, but it is kind of like everything is kind of to the side of the stuff happening in the war. You know, it is like a very, very insular, which, again, is like part of the theme of the movie. But, like, it is kind of always happening to the side of the actual conflict. But I feel like having the fact that you have characters led by, a Jewish man kind of leading the charge for them, and kind of making it happen, because he kind of connects the two of them when they're thinking they're never going to see each other again, and he kind of is the glue that gets them back to seeing each other again. And I don't know, I kind of like that. I just, it's always, I don't know. I'm a sucker for those weird Holocaust stuff.
It's good. I mean, it's a happy ending.
Yeah, a happy ending in the Holocaust. I'm always like, it's so nice. I mean, I don't know. It is such a depressing time that you hear about so much in your life. And it's just like, the Jewish people who suffered, and so, any story where someone's able to escape in time, there's always like,
well, it's him and his family. They all get out,
right,
because he's holding the kids, because his wife died in their attempt to escape. And he's holding their kids on the boat, on the same boat.
And then you have like the new created family of like Sophia and Mr. Jackson and Katya, which it's not, I mean, it is like a really, I don't know, it's kind of, I always love Island of Misfit Toys endings. And just like you have like a sex worker and a blind man, and like, and I guess the daughter is just, doesn't have a specific.
Technically, she's might be a princess, because her mom's a countess.
But she's also like, she's technically has a single mom. Like, their relationship does have that kind of, like, again, Island of Misfit Toys feeling. And I always love that when, it's like that chosen family kind of thing of, like, people whose society have discarded, like, finding each other and finding, like, home within the community of each other. These are the things I'm a sucker for. So I like that. But yeah, so, and then it kind of ends on a melancholy note of them, like, sailing away from their lives, but, like, to find a new life. Mm-hmm. And I think there's, like, someone playing an instrument. I forgot.
Yeah, there's a trumpet. There's a trumpeter on the boat.
It's very haunting.
Yes,
that music.
yes. And I think that is maybe supposed to represent the very, 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 very last vestiges of the life of the club, of the life that they knew.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't. That's totally right. I don't even think I thought about that, but you're 100% right. Yes, good. Good catch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's I like it. I like the movie.
No, I think you picked a really good movie. I actually want to share this one with my mom because I think she'd like it a lot too. Mm-hmm.
Yay. Okay,
Yay,
so do we want to
you.
do our reviews?
Sure.
I guess we are kind of going into that. But I'm going to give it honestly, I'll give it like a 2400. It'd be really nice, which is like which is past legal blindness. Because should I explain how this works for both you and the audience?
Yes, you should.
Sorry, I made it so complicated.
That's okay.
The way that we rate the movies is 2020 we rate it on a scale of blindness acuity. So instead of like 2020 being the ideal thing, 2020 would be like a sighted person made this movie and no blind people were contacted. It's not blind at all. Whereas, so the higher the number, the better the rating, because something like a 2200 is legal blindness. So that would be a decent rating. And then anything above that is extra credit for blindness. Very confusing system. You can blame me, but I think it's kind of fun.
I get it now. I mean, and I don't mean to like jump on the bandwagon, but honestly, I would also give this movie a 2400.
Hey, high marks.
Yes,
very blind friendly.
Yes. And the fact that a really easy way to win me over is you have a blind character, but their blindness, the fact that they are blind, is not their character.
Yeah,
like this wasn't a story about Mr. Jackson having to overcome his blindness and do something amazing or whatever, or like. Like
or like just want pining to be sighted again in some way.
Right, exactly. He just, yes, he got in a terrible accident, but he just happened to be blind.
Yeah,
and he was still living his life. And if that is a character, if being blind is as an aspect of their character and not their entire character, you have me.
Yeah, and that the way that it is part of his character feels very true to life. Like the things that are stressful are truly stressful for blind people. The things that are comforting, the fact that he is so comforted by routine, that is a very blind person thing. Like the having the safe spaces, and as much as like it feels somewhat tropey in the movie, I do think that like the comfort of having a familiar place is a very truly blind thing. Like and there's good reason for that. And even though in some ways the movie plays with it in some weird ways, but I do think that like ultimately that is sometimes a problem. Maybe that blind people, I think we could hold on to things that are familiar past the point in which they're safe, just because the familiarity is like makes them feel safe. So like it kind of all the ways in which his character but then also the fact that his character is very self-assured, is very adaptable, has a lot of different characteristics I think are positive things about blind people. It definitely had felt true. One thing I guess we could argue is you could get a blind character or a blind actor to play a blind character.
Yes,
that's the one thing, but
that's the only thing I thought when I finished it. I was like, that was really good, but it is the story of another abled actor playing a disabled actor. Yeah, you did the opposite of what I did. A blind, an abled actor playing a disabled character, whereas I said an abled character playing a disabled actor. So I don't know. We both said the wrong thing. Anyway, it is another case of an abled actor playing a disabled character.
Yeah, it is. But well. Maybe at some point when we're doing this podcast in the future, there will be movies coming out where you'll actually have blind actors. I don't know if it's happened in history yet, but Maybe
Yeah, I'll have to
someday.
look. I'll have to look.
Well, we'll get to it if it has happened, and if it does happen, we'll get to it when it happens. But yes, we endorse blind people playing blind characters.
Yeah, well, not only that, I mean, just disabled actors in general
Yes.
playing disabled characters or playing non-disabled characters, whatever they want. Just
Right. But
working.
the reason why we don't have stars that can play disabled actors is because no one's hiring disabled people to play anyone. So that's why they're not around.
Unless you're Peter Dinklage.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
I don't.
The one person.
I don't hate Peter Dinklage. I love Peter Dinklage, but yeah.
Well, I guess that like having a abled actor play a little person is so extremely offensive. You
Well,
can't. You just
yeah.
don't like have characters.
No.
You don't even try. Yeah. But yeah, that is one that they haven't even. Well, who knows? I'm sure something extremely offensive has been done before. Anyway, to end on a happier note of not complaining about the state in the Hollywood, which is this whole podcast in some ways, but what is something that we enjoyed this last couple weeks, something we've been getting into?
Well, I guess I kind of already blew mine.
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
can't remember if I had talked about it on a previous episode, but it would be the Harley Quinn animated series. The voice talent is exceptional. The writing is great. The episodes are fun and funny and fast paced, and I've watched the first 3 episodes so many times I can practically just listen to them and I know all the jokes. But there's visual jokes, sure, but there's lots of like dialogue gags.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, it's about Harley Quinn not being with the Joker anymore.
Yeah,
which is
fuck yeah.
awesome. And she's got like a crew. So you got like, I mean, the talent on the show is amazing. You got Lake Bell as Poison Ivy,
Oh, wow.
who her delivery, she's so dry.
I love
Oh my
some dry
god,
humor.
yes, she's amazing. And then you have like Alan Tudyk, who plays the Clayface and the Joker. You have Buster, Tony Hale from Arrested Development.
Oh yeah, Tony Hale.
Yes, he plays Dr. Psycho, and he is this like little person with a huge attitude. He's amazing.
Wait, is
I
he an
love him.
actual little person?
Yeah, in the
Oh,
in the
so
show.
there is a.
Yeah, in the show, Dr. Psycho is a little person.
So what I just said, that I don't know if that exists, it does exist apparently.
Well, but this is an animated show, so obviously Tony Hale's not disabled, but the character he's playing is a little person.
Right, but I had literally just said that I feel like it's too offensive to make a character that is a little person played by an abled
Okay,
actor.
So that is a whole different discussion we can have, because voice actors,
it complicates
insane.
it,
Yeah.
but it is not. I still think there could be some accountability.
sure, but yes, no, I get what you're saying. But in that case, you'd have to find a real shark, a half man, half shark, to play King Shark, who's voiced by Ron Funches.
I don't know though. I think it's fine if a human plays a shark character.
Yes.
No.
And then, sadly, I can't remember who voices Harley, but she's amazing. I think she's a newcomer. I'm not sure. Oh, Jason Alexander's in it as well.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I will.
He
have
plays
to...
a guy in a wheelchair.
Oh no.
Yeah, this show is perfect for you. You should totally watch it.
Okay. I will. Well, we'll have to watch it for the podcast or
Yes.
something.
But yeah,
there's so many disabled characters stuff.
Yeah. It's Harley Quinn, the animated series. It's only streaming on DC Universe, so you either gotta pay the $7 or make a friend.
Oh no, DC Universe. That's a streaming platform now.
Yes.
Oh no.
And you can also read comics, and it's actually kind of cool because you can read comics, and they have all of the
Do they do the audio ones?
No, they
Oh.
should. No, but they have all like the Batman, the animated series stuff on there.
Oh yeah. That's cool. I'm need to curate my streaming portfolio. But that does sound awesome.
It's really cool.
I'm glad that
It's
she
really
got out
cool.
of that abusive relationship.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
That is something I've been worried about her, so that's great.
And it's oddly emotional too. Like it'll have
Well, yeah.
like it's
Well, that's the
you
weird
know.
thing is when Harley Quinn is not an emotional, like it is like a genuinely full on realistically abusive relationship that like that when that's played for laughs, it's like, no.
Oh yeah, no. When it's played for laughs is like, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, not cool. Not good.
Anyway, what do you got? What do you got?
So this is like not a thing that's new-ish. I mean, yeah. But I am always enjoying and listening to the Pop Star soundtrack, which is
Wait, you don't mean Pop Star
Never Stop, Never Stopping.
Oh
Yes.
my god. Yes.
This is just like it is such a mood booster that I feel like it's a good, since we've like been doing comedies, now I did a drama, just wanted to bring like the just joy and laughter as well into it, because I mean, I'm of Love Lonely Island forever, but just that soundtrack, it is like for a soundtrack to a comedy movie, not the kind of thing that you expect to just like listen to all the time for just as a genuinely loving the music and enjoying it. I feel like it is a movie that is a cult classic of, you know, the future,
yes.
probably, or now maybe, but it is.
Definitely
very
now.
Yes.
Nobody went and saw it when it was in theaters.
I saw it twice in theaters, and I was
Nice.
shocked. I was like, "Why
Nice.
would no one see this? This is so amazing."
I missed it, and I'm very sad.
Yeah, I get to have the cred of seeing it in theaters.
Yes,
But-
my favorite joke is the bees joke.
Oh my gosh, the one where they're like the camera person.
Yes, it cuts out.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
So,
all
right.
you
It's like,
hear,
don't watch this.
yeah, all you hear is what is happening, and they put the dialogue on screen. But yeah, no, I love that. Also,
That is really funny.
oh my god, that's literally my favorite joke in the entire movie. What is your favorite song on the soundtrack?
Oh, okay. So my favorite song is Bin Laden.
Yes, of course,
Because it is
of course.
just the entire conceit of that song. Seeing it in the theaters, like within one line of the song, I started laughing so hard and did not stop the entire song. Like I was happy to see it twice because I like missed so many of the jokes in that song because it was just instantly the funniest thing
Yes,
I've ever
yes.
heard. It's oh my god, I just love it so much and how smart those lyrics are, but it just how unbelievably funny that is of like subverting like the sexy song.
Invade her cave with especially you.
And just with that, and I was like, he wasn't even in a cave the first time I saw it, and then he was
Oh
like,
my
and then at the
God.
next line is he said he wasn't in a cave. And I was like,
Yes,
yes, it's
yes.
true, he wasn't in a cave. Yeah, it's like it's written for my heart.
Aw,
But yeah, I love.
Mine is Mona Lisa.
Yes,
Because that
that's a great
song
one.
just is so stupid. I love it.
The original
so
Basic
much.
Bitch.
The original Basic Bitch.
Oh, I
Yes.
love, yeah, because it is also true. Mona Lisa is pretty lame, like as a tourist attraction. Oh, and there's also so another one of my favorite ones. I don't think is it's a bonus track in the soundtrack. I'm not sure if if it's like during the credits or not that they play it, but it's like I'm pretty sure it is featuring Fall Out Boy, and it's just like a song where it's like it's like talking to kids, but then it's like if your teacher is like being a grumposaurus, you could just tell him to fuck off, and then it like gets far more graphic. And just for like each like adult, a scenario where an adult is like
Yes.
having a reasonable request,
Yes.
and then they're like,
Fuck off.
oh my god, yeah, and then it's just like, you can suck my dick, and like just this extremely.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's so good because I really love how dumb the songs for like they're like the tween, because it is Fall Out Boy basically, like the tween songs where it's like so aggressive and you're like, why are you you feel very angry about something that seems inconsequential, and then it's like also 13-year-olds that really love it, and so they was just so good. So good.
I love it.
Great,
I love it.
Great
That's
soundtrack.
that's wonderful. No, not enough people talk about that movie.
Yeah, it is. Because a friend and one of the people in my improv team was wearing a shirt for Popstar, and another friend and I were like, "Oh my God, it's Popstar!" And then the rest, like, there's 10 of us on the team, and then the rest of the team was like, "Oh, I don't know what that is," and we're like, "What? You don't know what Popstar is?" But I feel like it's just like, yeah, it's one of those things where you either, it's either your favorite thing in the whole world or you don't know it yet. Yep. Oh,
Love it.
okay. Well, do we
Cool.
want to announce
Right.
our next movie?
Sure. So next time it's mine. So I have picked for us Blind Dating, since I am incapable of picking a drama, apparently.
No, it's okay. I picked one for you.
Cool. So we're watching Blind Dating. It stars a baby Chris Pine.
Oh.
I swear, I think this is like one of the first things he ever did. And he plays Danny. And it's all about Danny's adventures in love.
Oh, if only it was Valentine's Day wasn't like a month ago, so we're too late.
I know. No, this one is way too late. But yeah,
We're in the romantic. We'll just group them thematically, maybe.
there you go.
Yeah. But I'm very excited to watch that.
Good.
Yay.
It's silly, but it's great.
Silliness is good. I'm happy for it. I'm here for it. That's what they say. I'm here for it.
Yeah, you're here for it. You're here for it. You're here
Okay.
for that.
Well,
Cool.
thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, for being citizen white cane people. That's that's super well said to me.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week, we'll see you in 2 weeks. These come out bi-weekly.
That's right.
Yes.
So,
Don't
yes.
wanna-
See you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Our theme song was written and performed by the amazing Lucia Fasano. You can check her out at luciafasano.bandcamp.com. She has a lot of really great stuff. We did get social media. So you can follow us on Twitter at White Cane Pod or on Instagram at Citizen White Cane. You can send us an email to citizenwhitecanepod@gmail.com. And, of course, don't forget to subscribe and rate and review and all that stuff. Yeah, cool. Thank you. See you in a couple weeks.